Hey guys, Renesmee here. Welcome back to episode 2. Things are getting intense in What If Bella Craved the Man He Became. I've turned the next chapter into an audiobook for you. So get comfy and let's dive right in. Time to go, Jasper called from the living room. Shall we? Jacob said, and held his arm out for me to take. I put my hand through it, and we walked toward the door. Edward stood up from his chair at the kitchen table and followed behind us after putting the frozen broccoli back in the freezer. The front seat of the car had a huge flower arrangement in it. Sorry guys. I'll have to chauffeur you tonight, Jasper said. We had to stop and pick these up for Alice on the way here. Jacob held the back door of Jasper's car open for me, and Edward went around to the other side. I climbed in and scooted to the middle. The Cullen boys sat on either side of me. Jasper started driving, and it was the longest 12-minute car ride of my life. Edward seemed tense beside me, and all I wanted to do was to turn my head and sniff him. Jacob acted jittery, shaking one of his legs and drumming his fingers on his thigh. I finally sneaked a glance over at Edward and found him glaring at my bare knee. That's when I felt Jacob's hand resting there. I rolled my eyes, picked up his hand, and placed it back on his own knee. I looked over at him, and he had a cocky smile on his face. Oh God. We finally arrived at the mansion where the event was being held. The two boys climbed out, and I almost followed Edward on his side. Unfortunately, Jacob was already bending down, holding his hand to help me out. I took it, and when I stepped out of the car, instead of extending his arm to me again, he just kept a hold of my hand. I didn't want his parents to think I was some sort of perverted freak. So I quickly grabbed my hand back and held my clutch with both hands in front of me. Jacob put his hand on my back and led me inside. He was starting to annoy me. We got inside, and I excused myself to go find Alice. She was the perfect hostess, greeting more people than I could have ever remembered by name, welcoming them, and making small talk. She had a huge smile plastered on her face. And I was a bit in awe of her skills. I went up to her and congratulated her on the wonderful turnout. She introduced me to a few of her friends and then excused hers. LF to go check on the silent auction pieces. I scanned the crowd, not looking for anyone in particular. I found that certain no one in particular standing alone against a pillar with a drink in his hand. He looked at me and smiled. I smiled back, and it was like I could feel goodness and warmth and loveliness flowing through my veins. I was about to walk toward him when Edward's smile turned to a frown. He huffed and slumped his shoulders, ending our moment. There you are, I heard a voice behind me say. I almost gagged when I thought I felt him blow on my neck. Jacob had found me. My sweet, innocent, young buddy was acting all sorts of weird, and it was making me uncomfortable. Dance with me? He asked. I guess, but I'd rather wait until the electric slide later, I smiled at him. He just winked at me and started walking toward the dance floor. Ew. I did not like young boys winking at me. The song was a slow one. I put my hands on Jacob's shoulders, and he instantly pulled my body flush against him and started rubbing his hands up and down my back like he wanted to feel me up. Jacob, give some room to breathe, I said, grabbing his arms from around my waist and pushing him back until there was some space between us. Sure. He winked at me again. We danced the rest of the song with Jacob staring at me intensely while I looked everywhere but at him. I was uncomfortable to say the least. I finally found Edward dancing with his mom and made the sight of them together my happy place. As soon as the song ended, I told Jacob I had to pee and headed for the bathroom. When I came back out, I tried to be covert. But Jacob saw me, and started walking towards me. I pretended not to see him and turned a different direction. Of course, I literally ran straight into Edward. Oh, I'm sorry, I said and glanced back over my shoulder to see if Jacob had caught up with me yet. Edward followed my eyes to see what I was looking at and frowned when he saw Jacob. Save me, I pleaded with a whisper. Edward looked down at me and smiled. His smile was my new happy place. Edward grabbed my hand and pulled me to the dance floor. He kept me at a respectable distance, and we kept eye contact. Thank you. I breathed after I saw Jacob sulk off. Looks like someone has a little crush, Edward smiled at me. Oh no, I swear I don't. He's much too young for me. I mean, not that I wouldn't date someone younger. Younger is okay. Just well. He's too young. He's barely past puberty. I couldn't believe I had been giving them that impression. Edward must think I was some sort of sick freak. I mean that Jacob has a crush on you, Edward laughed. Oh, of course that's what you meant. I don't know what I did to bring this on. We get along so well. He's like the little brother I never had. Bella, I don't think you have to do anything but breathe to attract everyone you meet. Whatever, you're just being silly. I pursed my lips at him and tried to play it cool, but on the inside my heart started racing. I'm serious. You're gorgeous and funny. And everyone loves you. I wondered if he included himself in everyone. I just smiled at him and kept dancing. I loved going to formal events. The song ended. He didn't let go when the next one started. Jacob came up and tapped Edward on the shoulder. May I cut in? You're hogging my date. Get lost. Edward sighed and pulled me closer, wrapping his arms around my waist and making our bodies touch. It was similar to what Jacob had done, but this time I couldn't find it in me to care. Jacob stomped off, and I rested my head against Edward's chest, letting him lead us. This was my new happy place. That song ended, and the music picked up tempo. Edward slowly undid his arms, and I reluctantly pulled away. Before I knew what was happening, Jasper grabbed my hand and spun me around to dance with him. I laughed as we did some sort of hip-hop swing tango. You're wild, I said through my giggles. You seem to be the one having a wild night, Jasper said back, trying to make his voice loud enough for me to hear over the music. I laughed again as he dipped me, and I caught a glance of Edward over to the side of the dance floor smiling at us. I smiled back and then let out a shriek as Jasper spun me again. When the song finally finished, I was out of breath and thirsty. I made my way over the refreshments, got a drink, and scanned the room for my happy place. I caught a glimpse of Edward walking out the door to the patio. I felt compelled to follow him. I didn't know what I would say when I got to him, but being near him was the only thing I could seem to focus on. I got outside and didn't see him anywhere. It was a beautiful night. The temperature was perfect and we were close enough to the water that you could hear it in the distance. I took a say at on the stone ledge surrounding the patio, listened to the sounds, and thought about Edward. Bella, there you are. I wanted to talk to you. Jacob interrupted me and was making his way toward me from the door. Oh, hi Jake. I was just getting some air. Jacob sat down next to me, picked up my free hand, and held it in his. He started rubbing circles on it with his thumb. I tried to pull it back, but he held on tighter. He looked up at me, took a deep breath, and said, Bella, I've loved you since the first time I saw you at Alice's wedding. I was too young for you then, obviously, but I'm a man now. I know I don't have a full-time job or a car or even a driver's license, but I can get all that eventually. The important thing is that we love each other. My mouth must have been touching my lap, it was hanging so far open. Why was this happening? Had I led him on? Was I really some sort of sick freak who flirts with young boys? Jake, I don't know what gave you the impression I might be interested. But you really too young for me. I think you're adorable, but more like little brother adorable. His face fell, and he let go of my hand. But it's not that much of a difference. In 40 years you'll be 71, and I'll be 59. I love you. I know it can be enough. Besides, you told me to go for it. The look on his face broke my heart. I didn't feel bad enough to risk getting arrested though. I'm sorry, Jake. I had no idea you were talking about me. I thought it was a girl at school or at your dog-sitting job. It would never work. I'll always be your sister though. Okay. He nodded. I reached out to squeeze his arm. But he jerked it away, stood up, and ran off down the steps and out into the gardens. I felt awful. Who knew Bella Swan could be such a heartbreaker? I sat there for a long time staring at my glass in my hands. I was such an idiot. I did have a crush on a younger man, but the wrong younger man had a crush on me. It figured. I felt him sit down next to me before I saw him. I looked up to find Edward with a soft smile on his face looking back at me. "I've been looking for you," he said. "Well, you found me." I smiled back, completely forgetting about Jacob. My happy place had arrived. I turned to the side and set my glass down beside me. When I turned back toward Edward, he was sitting even closer to me and leaning in. "Bella, I wanted to talk to you." "Oh, my gosh. Uh-huh." My mind was going a million miles a minute. I couldn't think. I couldn't see what was happening. "Bella, I. Edward sighed in frustration like he couldn't get the words out and looked down at his hands. He took a deep breath and looked back up. I bet instead of talking he leaned forward with his eyes trained on my lips. I leaned forward. Yes. He was about to kiss me. I leaned back. No. He was Alice's kid brother. I leaned forward again. I'd been fantasizing about those lips for 2 weeks. I leaned back again. He was young. So very young. I probably looked more like Rain Man than an all-yearing woman with all the rocking back and forth. Edward took control and put his hand behind my head, threading it through my hair and pulling me toward him. He placed his lips softly on mine and held them there. I felt the kiss from my lips down to my toes. It was soft and sweet and gentle and flawless. It was over too soon. We were interrupted by an angry yell. The next thing I knew we broke apart. And I opened my eyes to see Jacob tackling Edward backwards. Edward nearly fell off the ledge, and I grabbed onto both of them trying to keep him and Jacob from falling over into the grass several feet below. Jacob shoved my arm off of him, throwing me off of balance, and before I knew what was happening, I found myself laying on my back in the garden looking up at their horrified faces still on the patio above me. Ouch. Edward jumped down over the ledge, while Jacob ran down the steps. "Bella. Bella, can you hear me?" Edward grabbed my hand and kneeled over me. "Sweetheart, are you okay?" Jacob said, taking my other hand. "Sweetheart. Jacob, you're delusional," Edward snapped at him angrily. "Well, at least I didn't try and suck her face off, you pervert," Jacob growled. "Excuse me. I just fell off a ledge. Would one of you please help me up?" I interrupted. Luckily nothing felt broken. "What is going on, Mr. Carrie just came and told me there was a fight out here." The three of us looked up simultaneously at Alice, who was standing up on the patio, looking at us with a furious expression on her face. "Oh no, nothing like that. You know how clumsy I am. I just lost my balance and fell. This is so embarrassing." I started to get up. And Edward and Jacob both jumped to their feet and grabbed my elbows to help me. "Will you two stop?" I snarled, too quiet for Alice to hear me. Alice rushed down the steps to my side. "Are you okay? Oh, your dress is all wrinkled. And your hair." "She looks fine, Alice," Edward sighed and reached up to smooth my hair down. I think I must have hit my head, because I just looked up at him, smiled, and let out a loud sigh. "Come on, Bella. Let's go inside." Alice tugged on my arm, and I went with her back to the party. "I'm so sorry I haven't gotten to pay more attention to you tonight. Were you having fun before you fell?" Alice asked once we were back inside. "Yes. I've been having a nice time," I answered her, but in my mind I was busy playing that kiss over and over. "Good. The program is about to start. So you can just stick with me now. I've noticed Jake being a little clingy." "Sorry about that. I think he has a bit of a crush on you." "Yeah," I said. All I could think about was Edward leaning, Edward touching, and Edward's lips touching mine. "Bella, are you okay? You seem out of it." "Uh-huh." Edward's smell, Edward's hands, Edward's lips. "Come on. Let's go sit down." Alice looked at me with concern and led me to the front row of chairs where they would be holding the auction. The room started filling with people. Jacob took the seat on the other side of me and D put his arm around the back of my chair. He could not take a hint. I didn't see Edward sit down behind me, but I swear I felt him. I glanced over my shoulder, and there he was. Our eyes met, and the faintest hint of a smile crossed his lips. I looked away quickly, and sat in my seat grinning like an idiot. I didn't get anywhere near my happy place the rest of the night. After the program and auction, Alice had me helping her pass out gift bags and making sure people left with their purchases. I found him with my eyes every chance I got, but when I did, he was sitting by himself and appeared deep in thought. When the gala was over and it was finally time to leave, Esme and Carlyle both hugged Alice and congratulated her on a successful event. Bella, I don't know if we'll see you again before you leave. You need to come back soon. You're practically a Cullen now. Esme pulled me in close for a hug. Sooner or later, Mom, Jacob said and grabbed me as soon as she let go and before I could stop him. He hugged me tight against his chest and whispered in my ear, I'll wait for you. Stop. I gave him a stern look and heard Edward snarl something angrily behind me. Sure. Jacob winked at me. I don't know where this cocky little jerk came from, but I wanted the old Jacob back who was cute and played with me. It's been a pleasure having you here, Carlyle said and held out his arms to hug me. You're welcome to visit us any time. Thank you. I hugged him and felt sad that it was the beginning of the goodbyes. They left, followed by Rosalie and Emmett. Do you want Edward and Bella to take my car, and I'll ride with you? Jasper asked Alice. Yes. I wanted to ride with Edward. I wanted to be trapped in a confined space with him. I wanted to talk about that kiss. I wanted to figure out what was going on. I wanted to be near him. Jasper looked at Alice. Alice looked at Edward. Edward was looking at me, and I tried my best not to make eye contact with anyone. I was feeling exposed or like I'd been doing something naughty. No, I think I want to spend as much time as I can with Bella. Why don't you drive, Edward? There was something in Alice's voice that didn't sound quite right. What if she knew I kissed her brother? Well, technically he kissed me. I didn't do anything wrong. Sure thing. I'll see you ladies at home, Jasper said. He turned toward the door, and Edward turned to follow. He paused and looked back at me. It was a quick glance, but I felt like he was telling me something. Like we would talk later or kiss later. I gave him a quick nod and waved goodbye. I helped Alice get the rest of her things together, and she didn't seem upset with me at all. She didn't mention anything about Edward or Jacob. We discussed what a great night it had been, and Alice told me how much money they had raised. When she pulled into the driveway, I noticed Edward's truck was gone. It was late, and we were both exhausted, so I told Alice goodnight. Tomorrow would be my last full day in Seattle. I wasn't ready to leave. I wasn't ready to tell Alice goodbye, and I had no idea what was going on with Edward. I got ready for bed, and lay awake listening for him to come home. As ridiculous as my feelings for him were, they were real. I never would have imagined he would feel something for me too, but apparently he did. I just didn't know what any of it meant. Was it just a kiss, or was there something more? It was after 2 in the morning when I finally heard the front door close. I'd planned to get up and talk to him when he got home. I wanted to ask him how he felt, or what he'd been thinking when he kissed me. I might have even been hoping to try the whole thing out again when Jacob wasn't around to interrupt us. Now that he was home though, I found myself chickening out. I waited. I heard him come out of the bathroom. I waited more. I didn't hear any more movement. I waited a little longer, working up my nerve. By the time I made it out of bed and into the living room, he was sound asleep. I watched him sleep, and I ached for him. It felt good but painful all at the same time. I worried it couldn't work. I worried that it could. I considered waking him. About kissing him just to find out how he'd respond. I thought about reaching out and running my fingers through his hair, but in the end all I did was sit there, because I couldn't find the courage to do anything else. After a couple of hours I got up, bent over him, lightly kissed him on the cheek, and went to bed. I woke up later than usual but still hadn't gotten much sleep. I thought I LD probably try and at least check my appearance and brush my teeth before I chanced running into Edward. I started to sneak toward the bathroom when I heard Alice crying in the living room. Alice, what's wrong? I followed the sound of her voice and found her sitting on the couch in the living room. She was holding a page ripped from a legal pad in one hand and a tissue in the other. "It's Edward," she sobbed. I froze. What did she mean? What about him? I asked calmly, trying to hide the chaos raging inside of me. "He's gone." "Gone? What do you mean gone?" I asked a crying Alice. "When I woke up, his blankets were put away. This note was on the coffee table, and his truck was gone." Alice held up the paper to me. I took it from her and read. "Alice, I've been planning to get away. I didn't plan to leave like this. But something happened that made it necessary. I don't know exactly where I'm going or when I'll be back. I just need time to be alone and think. I know you will be upset, but please respect my need to do this. I have to do some soul searching and make some life changes. It's time. We both know that. I'm going to call Dad from the road, and I promise I'll talk to you soon. Love, EAC." My heart sank when I read the words. I'd been the one to encourage him to try something different. It was my fault Alice was crying. I was also disappointed that he hadn't told me. There had been plenty of chances yesterday for him to confide in me. Instead, he kissed me. What did that mean now? He kissed me, just once, for just one moment, and now he was gone. For me that kiss meant everything, but maybe the Cullens were just kissy. Maybe they kissed each on the lips all the time, and I just hadn't noticed it. Maybe they were some sort of sick freaks. I was pretty sure it wasn't a brotherly or a friendly kiss. But maybe I was stupid for thinking it was something more. It was foolish to hope that someone like Edward could have feelings for someone like me. It was probably just a passing infatuation for him. I, on the other hand, was in too deep, and it hurt like hell. "I'm sorry, Alice." I handed the letter back to her and tried to hide my own emotions. "I know he hasn't been happy. I just don't know why he didn't tell me what he was going to do. Probably because you would never have let him go. You would have tried to talk him out of it, and made him feel like you were disappointed in him if he went anyway." She looked at me like I'd just hurt her and started crying harder. "Alice, no, I mean, he probably just needs some time away. He'll be back. You left the country for 3 months when you were close to his age. Remember how much you grew up in Egypt. He needs a chance to experience something like that." I put my arm around her, and she cried on my shoulder. Jasper walked in the door. "No luck," he said. "No luck with what?" I asked. "Alice made me go try to chase after Edward and get him to come back. I finally got him to answer his phone, but he was already in Idaho. Alice, don't hate me. But I think you've got to let him go." I knew I was giving myself the same advice. I had to let Edward Cullen go. He was a fantasy, a fairy tale, but Prince Charming wasn't going to come ride up on a white horse and take me away. Our road wasn't going to lead to happily ever after. I was too old, and he was too young. People would find it creepy. I even found the idea a little creepy. I know. It's just hard. I've always felt responsible for him. This is all my fault. Jasper sat on the other side of her, and she moved to lean into his embrace. "It's nobody's fault, Alice. It's just something he needed to do," Jasper said. "I'm sure he'll be back before you know it," I tried to reassure her. "He's gone, and tomorrow you'll be gone, and I'll be all alone," Alice whined. That was a little much. Alice had never been alone in her life. She had no idea what it was like to have a flat tire and have no one to call. She could probably count the nights she'd slept in a house all by herself on one hand. She didn't have to depend on her friend's brother's blog to keep her company. Alice had never been alone. I felt my eyes starting to sting, and I needed to get out of there. "I'm going to get dressed. You look fine, Swan," Jasper said, but then he looked at my face and knew I was upset. He nodded his head toward the hall and told me with his eyes to go. I went into the bedroom and noticed Edward's guitar was gone. The notebooks on the desk weren't there anymore to taunt me, and when I looked in the closet, some of his shirts were missing. He'd come in here and packed while I slept. I wondered if he'd watched me like I'd watched him. I prayed he was really asleep last night when I kissed his cheek. I plopped myself down on the corner of the bed and stared at the closet. I didn't want to cry for him. That would be ridiculous. We weren't anything, but possibly just barely friends. The more I thought about what Alice said, the more frustrated I became. She had everything. She had Jasper and her family and Lucy who would love her forever and change her depends when she got older. I didn't like the situation I was in. It wasn't how I pictured my life turning out. I'd tried to make something out of it. But to be honest, Mike only made matters worse. The false sense of companionship I'd built with Mike, pretending that something was better than nothing, wasn't working. Edward and this trip had been a fun little escape from the monotony of my daily life, but it was time for me to face reality. Being here had been wonderful. It made me realize how unhappy I'd been. It was time for some things to change. Some things like Mike, to start with. Was it really worth being with someone if I volunteered at a soup kitchen once a month to get out of spending a night with him? I preferred flirting with homeless men over flirting with Mike. It was also time to stop believing that I had to have the perfectly prescribed life with 2 kids, a husband, and a dog to be happy. Being alone didn't mean I had to be lonely. There were plenty of things I could do. I could adopt a child. I could adopt a dog. I could become eccentric and spend all my money on big shiny purses that made a statement. I could write a book or try and get the most dangerous assignments around the world and live life on the edge. There were plenty of things I could do to be happy that didn't involve a husband or starting to take in stray cats. It was time I focused more on my career. I think in a way I'd been waiting for everything else in my life to work out first, afraid that if I was too into my work that my potential relationships would suffer. It was silly to put my life on hold waiting for something that might or might not even happen. I was going to start working on my portfolio, and I was even going to take Edward's advice and call Drive Cullen. All of my future-oriented thinking was good and healthy and positive, but there was one thing I couldn't get out of my mind. Edward. He kissed me. He'd been nicer to me the last few days, and there were even a few moments where I was amazed at our chemistry and could practically feel the sparks flying between us, but I'd just dismissed it all as the workings of my always healthy imagination. Still, if I'd imagined those things, then why did he kiss me? What was he thinking? Why did he leave without explaining? Part of me was frustrated that he didn't tell me anything. But even more of me missed him. I would miss the rest of Alice's family when I went home, too, but the way I missed Edward was different. Even if this little day dream was ending would have ended when I left to go back to Boston, I still would have liked the chance to say goodbye and to thank him for letting me get to know him. He was the only one of the Cullens I didn't feel like I knew before I got here, and now I knew he was just as wonderful as the rest of his family. He was also the star in at least 3 naughty dreams I'd had in the last week, but I planned to keep that information to myself. I didn't need to thank him for everything. There was a light knock on the door, and Alice peeked her head inside. "Can I come in?" she asked. "Sure. Dad just called. He talked to Edward. My dad actually thinks this is a good idea. Can you believe that? I'm done. I'm tired of trying to help him. If he wants to ruin his life, that's up to him. He never listens to me anyway." Alice threw herself down dramatically on the bed next to me. I looked down at my friend, and I couldn't decide if I wanted to laugh at her or slap her. In the end, I knew it was useless. Disagreeing with Alice is like telling a squirrel in your front yard to sit. It's pointless. It was probably better that I didn't talk too much about Edward anyway. I wasn't sure how well I could hide my feelings from her if we did. Let's not let Edward ruin our last day together. I want to have fun with my best friend, not cry over your brother. By fun, do you mean makeovers, shopping, or watching chick flicks? Little Pixie, can we please try and make you a little less cliché? How about we read books together and discuss them, or paint, or try and to find a cure for cancer? Alice gave me the Saint ferocious look someone so small could muster. I was willing to admit she scared me. "Let's go to the mall." I laughed, grabbed a pillow off the bed, and slung it at her. She was too quick for me and ducked. 2 hours later, I was regretting not fighting harder to find a cure for cancer. My feet were already aching as Alice went from baby store to baby store, looking for sundresses for Lucy. It was and that I hated shopping with Alice all the time, but when we were only looking at clothes that were clearly too small for me, I was bored. We were walking through Gap for Kids on the way to Baby Gap, when I heard a child say, "Mommy." That's Edward's sister. Alice and I both snapped our heads in the direction of the voice. An adorable little blonde-haired girl was pointing at Alice. She was probably about 5, or 6, or maybe 12. I really had no idea. The woman looked in our direction, and recognition flashed across her face. She started over toward us. She looked familiar to me, but there was no way I could have known her. "Hi, Tanya." Alice practically sighed. Tanya. The girl from Alice's wedding who Edward was sucking face with. I wanted to cut her, but not in front of the children. "Alice, I'm so glad I ran into you. Do you know where Edward is? He was supposed to come by this morning, and he never showed up. I tried calling his phone, but it went straight to voicemail." Alice rolled her eyes rather obviously. I wanted to throw up, myself, but I didn't think blatant rudeness was Alice's style. "He went out of town," Alice said. "Oh, he didn't mention it to me, or maybe he did, and I just forgot. It was kind of last minute," Alice said while she looked through some boys' t-shirts. Tanya looked painfully uncomfortable. I couldn't stand it anymore. This called for an intervention. "Hi, I'm Alice's friend Bella." "Oh, Bella." A smile appeared on Tanya's face and she shook my hand enthusiastically. "Edward told me about you. I'm so glad to meet you." "Huh. Oh, well, it's nice to meet you too. This is my daughter, Chloe." Tanya pointed to the little girl. "Hi." I smiled down at her, and she smiled back. "Well, if you guys hear from Edward, please tell him to call me," Tanya said and smiled at me again. Alice let out some sort of grunt. I said goodbye and pulled Alice over to the girls' section. What was that all about? "Don't like her." Alice shrugged and kept looking at clothes. "You didn't have to be so rude to her. Are she and Edward, still hanging out?" I tried not to be too obvious about wanting to know. "I guess so," Alice huffed. "I wish she would stop manipulating him. She's probably trying to make him her baby daddy." "He's not her baby daddy, is he?" I might have been panicking just a little bit. It was bad enough that Edward apparently had a long-time girlfriend, but if he had a kid, I was going to die. "Oh no, that was some loser named Sam. He's my age, and he ran off and joined the army right after she got pregnant. I hear he's back in town, but I really couldn't care less about any of them. If my brother wants to be an idiot, that's his problem. Maybe he left town to get away from her." Alice froze. "I bet you're right. She's probably crazy and stalks him or something. She's probably blackmailing him. I bet she's not even human." Alice looked at me with horror in her eyes. I looked back at her with equal shock, and we both started laughing. I needed to keep laughing. It would be the only thing that would keep me from crying. I didn't know what was going on, but I was starting to think I had misread Edward even more than I originally thought. The rest of he day and the next morning were bittersweet. Nothing in me felt like going back to Boston. Jasper made fun of Alice and me for being too clingy with each other, but I knew the clock was ticking and all the fun would soon be over. And then it was. Walking away from Alice at the airport was like walking into a cloudy day. I wiped away the tears and knew I must look especially ridiculous when the woman at security hugged me. I sat on the plane, dabbing my eyes with a tissue. An older woman sat down next to me. She looked warm and kind, and I had the urge to ask her to hold me and brush my hair. I noticed her looking at me. I must have been quite a sight with mascara smudged around my eyes and snot wiped on my sleeve. "Sorry," I said. "Rough day." "Oh, sweetie, I'm sorry." She patted me on the arm, and then bent over to put down her magazine. "Oh good. She wanted to know about it." "Yeah, I've been visiting my friend in Seattle. She just had a baby, and I wanted to meet her. Her name is Lucy. She's cute. But Alice doesn't think I would make a good mother." Alice is married to Jasper, and I used to have a crush on him back in Cairo, but this is the first time I've ever admitted that because all the other girls liked him and there's nothing worse than being a cliché. So anyway, I used to joke about wanting to date Alice's younger brother Edward, but he was 14, so I guess it wasn't that funny, but now he's 22. And wow, he is so good looking, but he never brushes his hair, and that's a little gross, but I never did mind a fixer-upper. Anyway, I don't think I'm joking anymore. I think I like him, but he's kind of moody. And I usually think he hates me, but then he kissed me after his little brother asked me out, and then he just left after I watched him sleep, and then, I just don't know what to do. I started crying again and laid my head down in her lap. He's so wonderful, and I'm so old, I cried. The woman slowly patted me on the head. Your hair is in my trail mix. Oh, I'm so sorry. I lifted my head, looked down at her lap, and there was a smashed baggie of trail mix there. I looked up at her face, and she looked like she was scared of me. I tried to straighten our cloth. Where I'd rumpled it and thought I heard her mumble something about boundaries as I sat back in my own seat. I slammed my head against the headrest a few times. Stupid. I pretended. I was asleep for the rest of the flight, trying to avoid another awkward moment with my neighbor. By the time I walked into my house, I was exhausted. Pretending to sleep had worn me out, and I had to be at work the next morning. I threw a load of laundry in the washing machine and powered up my laptop to email Alice and let her know I was home. I glanced at the toolbar with my favorites and told myself no. There was no point in obsessing over him. It had been months and months since he'd posted anything new, and I had practically had every entry memorized. I told my hand to stop moving the mouse toward the link. I told my eyes to stop looking at the screen. My hand and eyes ignored me as I clicked on Edward's blog. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, and looked again. He updated. 8.23.09. Dreaming. Thinking. Waiting. The end. Fire. Burning. Scorching skin. I need her. Decay of vision. Want. Expectation. The phoenix rises. Alive. One kiss. I die. By EAC. One kiss. One kiss. It couldn't be. He probably wrote that ages ago. If it was referring to our one kiss, did he mean it killed him? I was the kiss of death. Figured. Blaze. When I got back to Boston, I tried to be proactive and make some changes. I called Drive. Cullen. She was so warm and gracious and immediately offered to check with her contacts and get back with me. I started updating my resume, made a CD presentation of my writing clips. And I even looked into what it would take to put my house on the market if I got offered a job in another city. I planned the speech I was going to give Mike to break up with him. Luckily, I'd be able to avoid him since I got back from Seattle almost 3 weeks ago. I was sick. I had cramps. I had a deadline. Swine flu. Had to drive to Connecticut to shop at an outlet mall. I'd have to do it sooner or later, though. As much as I was trying to make changes for the better, some things remained the same. I still got home from work every afternoon and walked into a quiet house. I spent most evenings alone. Unless a friend asked me to do something. When I got home, I would try to find something to do, like start some laundry or dust. I would wait at least 12 minutes every day before I signed onto my laptop to check Edward's blog. After not updating for months and months, now he was updating almost daily. I was going mad trying to analyze his words. 9.7.09. Goodbye. I had to leave. Your smile. Your words on repeat in my head. Your smell. The sway of your hips. I had to leave. You. I had to go. Through trees and fields and rain I fly. Trying to imagine a world without her. It follows. Me. Your smile. Your smell. Your sway. From where you laid your head on my pillow. I had to leave. I had to go. I won't forget. Anything. You're everything. No matter the miles and songs. Her heart. My heart. Her love. Not mine. I sat in my living room crying like an idiot. I didn't know what it meant. Why was he doing this to me? Was he even thinking about me at all, while he consumed my every thought? I read it over and over until I started to make myself crazy. I looked for some hint, some sign that would make it obviously about me, but how could it be? I wanted it to be, but if I let myself start to believe, it would only hurt more. I was home now. I had to get back reality, but I wanted to go back to Seattle. 9.9.09. Haiku. I can't leave her now. I'll lose myself walking through her strawberry fields. Where in this country was he picking strawberries, and who couldn't he leave there? I despised her, whoever she was. I shut the laptop, went to bed, and thought of him. 9.11.09. I smiled in my sleep, loving your quiet and indifferent self-confidence. You're stronger than you think. I couldn't stop thinking about where he was and what he was doing. I talked to Alice, and she said he was in Kansas last time she talked to him. They had reached some sort of truce, but Alice was still upset that he refused to come home. 9.12.09. Shish. So many words scare me. If she would stop talking, I might kiss her. I might need her. I might love her. She never shuts up. I sit and I listen and I wait for my chance. When she takes a breath, I'll take what's mine. Now that one sounded like me. I kept trying to imagine that he was writing about me. If he had never kissed me, I wouldn't even have had the guts to dream it. But he had kissed me, and this entry made it sound like something that hadn't happened yet. He must have been writing about that strawberry girl he met on the road. It had been a long day. I didn't want to sit around thinking about Edward and his new lover. This was just a silly crush. I was going to give it a few more days, and then I was going to delete the bookmark from my computer and let it go. I'd been obsessing over this blog for years, and now I was obsessing over the author. Obsessions weren't healthy. Running was healthy. In a few more days I would start running. 9.13.09. Wants. I want to be with you. I'll say that plainly. I want your mouth to be mine. I'll say it out loud. I want your body on me. I'll never stop dreaming. I want you. But to this end, I still don't know if you want me. I knew exactly how he felt. The two of us could start a support group. Maybe one of my new life resolutions could be to find a group called Unhealthy Obsessions Anonymous. I could invite Edward. Or we could just make out. 9.17.09. Another mile, another song, another night. I dreamed of her all night long. Once again, I could relate to his words. Well, more like another train commute, another article. I dreamed of him all night too. I couldn't think of a good word to rhyme with article. I was tired. I ran almost half a mile before I gave up, came home, and turned on my computer. 9.19.09. Perfect. My perfect world is full of afternoon naps and banjo songs. We drive in my truck down a country lane. You sit close, and I drape my arm over your shoulder. You talk and I listen. I kiss your cheek and you sigh. I'm not too young. You're not too old. I don't have to be established. You don't have to be so far away. We make love under a tree. I sing to you, and you smile. My perfect world is you. Well, crap. That one hurt. He was fantasizing about outdoor sex, and I was fantasizing about him. All the time. This was the last day. I was going to look for a new hobby tomorrow. I'd always wanted to try knitting. I could make scarves. People loved scarves. I would become popular with all my friends. 9.21.09. Today I wonder if you'll ever know. Not the time. Not the years. Not the way I one time kissed you. I wonder if you'll ever know the way I really want you. The way I know you in my heart and in my head. I want to know you with my hands and with your skin. Wasn't I supposed to have given him up by now? That was the last time I was checking it. Unfortunately, knitting took concentration, counting, and math skills. I'd always hated math. 9.24.09. You make the first move. Let me make all the rest. Why was he updating so much more? It wasn't helping me quit him. Maybe I should try smoking or promiscuity to distract me. The blog updates were starting to get depressing. They used to be romantic, but they were more geared toward some far-off dream of a woman. Now they seemed focused on a specific girl. He must have fallen for someone during his travels. For all I knew, he had a girlfriend back home. Sure, there were little things that reminded me of what happened between us. But there was just no way. I was clearly delusional. Crushes on friends' little brothers were stupid. I slammed my laptop shut, slumped down in my chair, and pouted. It was still early on Saturday morning. But I considered looking to see if there was still any ice cream left in my freezer. My plans were interrupted when my phone started ringing in my purse. I dashed across the room, opened it, and started searching. I could hear the ringing, but I couldn't find it. I started to think I wasn't going to answer the call in time, when I saw the light and grab it. I saw the Seattle area code. It was Alice. Yo yo yo, sup buttercup, I said in my best gangsta speak. Bella, a masculine voice said softly. No, just a second. I put my hand over the receiver and screamed. This is Bella. I tried again, playing it cool this time. Hi, it's Edward. Oh, my gosh. Oh, hi. I tried to sound nonchalant. Hi. He sounded like he let out a breath. I'm in your area actually, and I was wondering if you might like to get together for dinner one night this week. You're in Boston. Yeah, I've been making my way east, he said. The shakiness in his voice made him sound nervous. Oh, cool. Sure. When do you want to go? Would tonight be too soon? Tonight? Let me think. I paused, pretending like I really had to check my social calendar. I think tonight would be fine. I was going to see Edward. Do you want me to pick you up? Okay. What time? 7. Okay, 7 sounds good. I'll see you at 7. Bye. I was about to hyperventilate. Bella, he called out before I could hang up the phone. Yes. I don't know where you live, he chuckled. Oh, right. I'll text you my address and directions. I look forward to seeing you, Bella. You too, buddy. Buddy. I was an idiot. I hung up the phone before I could say anything else. What the fudge? What the fudge? What the fudge? Edward called me. Edward was in town. I was meeting Edward for dinner. I screamed and ran a couple of laps around the room like a crazy person. Oh my gosh. I only had 9 hours to get ready. I needed something to wear. I needed help. I needed to call Alice. I couldn't call Alice. I was going on a date with her younger brother. Wait. It wasn't a date. Was it a date? It wasn't a date. He probably just wanted to see a familiar face. He'd been away from home for weeks. Was I supposed to dress for a date or dress to spend time with a family friend? How did 22-year-old girls dress for dates? Should I try to act younger? I had to sit down. I put my head between my knees and tried to breathe. I needed some clarity. I needed a pedicure. My feet were disgusting. I needed to look good for my date or for hanging out with my friend's brother. I needed some of Alice's expensive conditioner. I needed to calm down. I flopped myself down and rested my head on the couch pillows. I was going to see Edward, alone, without having to go back to Alice at the end of the night. I wondered how different he would be out of his environment. Maybe some of the pressure he usually felt would be gone. What would we talk about? Would it seem too obvious if I admitted I finished the book of his I Was Ready? And bought the next 2 in the series? What if he tried to kiss me again? What if he didn't? What if I couldn't take it anymore and ended up throwing myself at him? I needed to calm down again. I wished I could call one of my friends. But I was afraid of what any of them would say if I told them I was interested in a zygote. It was kind of embarrassing. Plus, I didn't want to make it seem like something it wasn't. In reality, it was nothing, just a silly attraction that would pass. We were just getting together because he was in town and happened to know someone here. I needed to stop making it more than it was. Dinner tonight was no big deal. I kept telling myself that as I left the house, got a manicure and pedicure, bought $80 a bottle conditioner, 3 new shirts, and underwear. Tea seemed like it might actually belong to a grown-up. I stayed out of the house for a long time so I wouldn't have hours to sit around the house and freak out about what was going to happen. I needed tea. Oh Buddha eyes myself and live in the moment. I would just take things as they came and try my best not to act like a spaz. I washed my hair with expensive products, flat ironed it, and then curled it. It looked good. But it also looked like I was trying too hard. I put it in a ponytail. Too casual. I put it back down. I decided to go with natural looking makeup. Alice would have killed me, but I always thought guys liked girls who looked like they didn't need much makeup. I was pretty sure Edward was that kind of guy anyway. Not that I was trying to impress him. He was just a friend. An acquaintance. Really. It was time to get dressed. I started pulling out options from my closet and putting them on my bed. I took out my first date dress. It was nice. It looked good on me. Dressy. I would probably look like I was taking a hobo out for a charity dinner if I wore that with Edward. I decided I should probably wear some sort of band t-shirt and jeans. He would probably like that more than anything too fancy. I dug through the back of my closet to find some old concert shirts. I found Kelly Clarkson and Hootie and the Blowfish. Arg. That would be embarrassing. Why couldn't I have anything cool like Rolling Stones or the Beatles? Oh great, an Eminem shirt. I went through a rap stage in my early 20s. So, no band shirt. It was warm outside, so I decided to go with a casual sundress, white cardigan, and flip-flops. It was a little bit dressy, but hopefully it didn't look like I was trying too hard. In reality, I was trying very, very hard, but I didn't want Edward to know that. After all, this was just a dinner meeting. I threw the huge mess I'd made in my closet and shut the door to hide it. I grabbed a book off my shelf, opened it, and put it on the coffee table hoping it would make me seem smart. I lit a candle that smelled like sugar cookies and made sure everything looked just right. I still had over half an hour before 7, and I couldn't stop fidgeting. I was just about to change clothes when my doorbell rang. He was early. I was in the entryway, and I froze. I couldn't do this. I would just have to pretend like I wasn't home. The doorbell rang again. I had to do this. I wanted to do this. Maybe I could use this night to help me get over my infatuation. I would probably see him and feel nothing. I walked to the door, opened it slowly, and came very close to slamming it shut. Somewhere under all that facial hair, I finally recognized Edward. His hair was wild. He had a full beard. His clothes were crumpled and he looked more like a hobo than ever. I should have taken a picture and sent it Carlisle. He'd get a kick out of it. Hello, Bella. His sexy voice pulled me back to the moment. Edward, you look different. He was still attractive. Something about the rugged mountain man look was strangely delicious, but the thought of going out in public with that thing bothered me. People really would think I was helping out a beggar. You look amazing. He smiled at me. Thank you. I stared down at my feet uncomfortably, and when I looked up he was still smiling. I'm sorry about my appearance. I've been driving and camping in the back of my truck most nights. Oh, you look good. You always look good, I said. Oops. Edward just smiled. Do you want to get going, or do you need more time? I know I'm a little early. Yeah, you can come in. Well, how did I put this without sounding like I just wanted him to take off his clothes? On the other hand, it might offend him if I made it sound like I thought he smelled, too. Do you need to, want to use the bathroom? You probably haven't been anywhere with a nice shower or towels. Or a razor or a washing machine, but I didn't want to be too forward. Oh, thank you. He reached out and squeezed my arm, shooting fire through my veins. I thought it might be too forward for me to ask if I could clean up, but I could use a shower. Let me just go grab my bag. He jogged down the stairs of the porch. And I accidentally sighed while I watched him. He grabbed a duffel bag out of the truck and came back. This way. I held the screen door for him, and he walked past me inside. Wow. This place is perfect, Bella. It's so warm and homey. It's exactly where I would have pictured you living, he said as his eyes roamed around the room, examining my things. Thank you. I beamed with pride. I bet the cookie smell added a nice touch. I started walking toward the hallway. The bathroom is back here. There are towels and washcloths in the cabinet. You can use anything you want. You can even use my conditioner without asking first. Edward chuckled and nodded a thank you to me as he went into the bathroom. I'll be out in a few minutes, he said and then shut the door. Oh, no. Edward was in my house. Naked. Edward was naked in my house. My house was old. There were keyholes. No. I had to have some boundaries. Plus, I knew with my luck, I'd definitely get caught. I couldn't believe I even considered that. I creeped myself out. I wasn't sure what I should be doing when he came out. Reading. Watching TV. I felt uncomfortable in my own home. I sat down in a chair in the living room and picked up a magazine. But I couldn't stop staring down the hallway waiting for Edward. Finally, after what felt like forever, the bathroom door opened. Edward was shaven. His hair was still damp. He had on black jeans and a nice gray t-shirt. I think I might have drooled a little. Hey, I feel so much better. Thank you, he said. No problem. Where do you want to go tonight? I think you're going to have to pick actually. I have no idea what's around here. Oh, right. A million thoughts went through my head. Should we go somewhere nice? Somewhere romantic? Somewhere casual? TGI Fridays. If we went somewhere dimly lit with cloth napkins, it would communicate that I thought this was a date. If we went to a sports bar or somewhere the waiters wore flair, it would be more of a night out with a friend. This was stressful. Do you like Italian? There's a great little place just down the street. Sounds perfect. His smile was warm, and I was afraid of getting lost in it. Let me just call to make sure the wait isn't too long. I have the number in the kitchen. Do you mind if I check my email real quick? My laptop is out of battery power, and I haven't been anywhere to charge it today. He gestured toward my laptop sitting on the table. Sure. Help yourself. I went to the kitchen and started digging through my junk drawer looking for the takeout menu with the phone number on it. I froze. My computer. Edward was on my computer. My computer that I was earlier using to look at No. I ran as fast as I could, but it seemed like I was moving in slow motion. I busted through the kitchen door. Edward had my laptop open with a half grin on his face. He was typing something. He glanced up at me, and I was sure I was about to die. When he saw me, he casually shut the laptop, stood up, and said ready. Flame. Caroline's was a cute little Italian diner within walking distance of my house. I grabbed my keys and my purse, and Edward held the door for me and then waited while I locked it behind us. He didn't mention what he'd seen on my computer, and I wasn't about to bring it up. We started down the sidewalk, and Edward walked so close to me that our shoulders were practically touching. It was still light outside, but the sun began to make its way behind the trees. There was a light breeze, and the leaves were just beginning to change to fall colors. Everything about the evening was perfect. Everything except the butterflies I had in my stomach. Edward seemed a little nervous too. The silence between us seemed to drag on too long. I'm sorry about leaving like I did back in Seattle. I tried to work up the courage to wake you up and talk to you, but I was afraid if you asked me not to go, I would end up staying. Edward finally spoke first. Oh, well, I was sad that you left without saying goodbye. Alice freaked out enough for all of us though. I can imagine, he sighed. Why did you do it? Why did you leave? I asked. It wasn't a rash decision. There were things I needed to figure out. And I had to do it away from my family. I wanted to talk to you, I really did, but in the end I thought it would be best to do it here. Plus I have a deadline next week that I needed to work toward. And I'd been thinking a trip could help me find inspiration. I've been stuck lately. I wasn't planning to leave that soon. I just woke up Sunday morning and needed to go then. I needed time away from my family to clear my head. It seemed like something I had to do. Can I ask what kind of deadline? You can ask me anything, Bella. He reached over and took my hand in his. My heart started racing. What was happening here? Was this really happening? If it's okay with you though, I'd like to show you what I'm working on after we get done eating. Sure. My voice cracked a little bit. Better put myself on another talking restriction. We got to the restaurant, and of course, the cute young blonde, slutty, whorish tramp of a hostess was checking Edward out. This wouldn't have been a problem if I hadn't offered my facilities to him. Bad move. I stepped in front of Edward and told her how many. She showed us to a table. It was a small place, and they boasted authentic food, though I am pretty sure the owner was from Wisconsin judging by her accent. The first few times she asked me if I wanted a to-go bag, I thought she wanted me to beg for my leftovers. We sat down in a booth, and she told Edward the specials. He didn't seem to notice. He was too busy staring at me. Take that, skank. I talked to my grandma. She told me you called her, Edward Said. I did. She promised to help me. Thank you for the push. I'm really glad I called her. So am I. An awkward silence followed, and I wondered if he was as uncomfortable as I was. Every once in a while I would glance up at him and catch him looking at me. He would look away. I was starting to pray our food would come soon so we'd have something else to focus on. So where have you been? I mean, what have you been doing for the past few weeks? I finally asked. I went through Montana, but it was already getting cold there, so I made my down through Wyoming and Colorado. I stayed on a ranch of one of Jasper's old friends for a few days. That was fun. I like that kind of outdoorsy country life. I stopped in Tennessee to meet with some people I'm working with, and then I went up to Virginia to learn to sail. After that I came here to see you. The waitress picked that moment to bring our food, and it was a good thing, because I was sure my face had turned bright red. He said he came here to see me. To see me. Like he wasn't just stopping by or calling the one person he knew in town. He was here to see me. What the heck did that mean? So, Alice said they raised a lot of money at the gala. More than they expected even, I saw it as I started stuffing my face with ravioli. When I get nervous I eat. I was sure to have to go on a diet if I spent too much time with Edward. Bella, can you do me a favor? He asked. I would do anything he wanted. Sure. Can we not talk about Alice? I want to be with you and not my family tonight. His words and the ravioli went down the wrong pipe, and I started coughing. I picked up my napkin and started fanning myself. Edward leaned back in the booth and laughed at me. He obviously knew exactly what he was doing to me, and if he thought he could just stop by here for some type of booty call during his road trip, he was wrong. Well, he was possibly right, but I wasn't going to be that easy. Am I making you uncomfortable? He asked. No, not exactly. Well, yes. I don't know. You read my head in my hands in front of me. Please, Bella, don't hide from me. He reached across the table and grabbed my wrist, pulling it away from my face. We'll figure everything out. Okay. I sighed. He held his hand out across the table, offering it to me. I felt like he was offering me more than his hand, but I wasn't sure how to define it. Maybe he was asking for an admission of my feelings for him. I reached out slowly and took it. He started rubbing it with his thumb, and I sighed. I was pretty sure I would be waking up any second, so I might as well enjoy the dream. Can I ask you a question? He asked. I mumbled in a daze. Who is Mike, really? Crap. I'm not sure how to explain it, I said and took my hand back. Please try. Mike and I have been dating for about a year. He had been asking me out for a long time. And I kept telling him no, but he was persistent. I went on a lot of first dates that never turned into second dates. I was tired of it all, and I decided that if I started dating Mike, everyone would leave me alone about putting myself out there. Do you love him? Edward asked without meeting my eyes. No, I don't. I promise I don't. I've been planning to end things. I'm just scared. Scared of what? Being alone, disappointing my mom, not having a date to the company Christmas party, being a spinster, the toilet overflowing. You know, the regular stuff. I shrugged. Edward looked at me like I was crazy. But I was used to people looking at me like that. He took a deep breath and said, "You don't have to be alone." I sat there, unsure of what to say next. The only thing I could come up with was, "Neither do you." Edward cocked his head to the side, and smiled at me contentedly. I smiled back. I have no idea what just happened, but I was pretty sure it was a good thing. I was growing pretty confident in the fact that this was a date, and as I played his blogs over and over in my mind, I started to hope. We talked for a long time. I loved the way Edward seemed to open to me. And I had a feeling he didn't do that with many people. We talked about the people he met, and I laughed too loud at his stories, but he didn't seem to mind. I was surprised by how naturally things started to flow. I stopped feeling awkward and started to feel at home in our interactions. We walked back to my house hand in hand, and it was dusk by the time we got there. I should be going, Edward said. The campground has a curfew, and I need to get my tent set back up before it's too late. I considered asking if he'd like to sleep in my bed, but I decided I didn't want him to think I was too slutty. You promised to show me what you're working on, I whined. Edward chuckled. Can we sit on your porch? I need to get my guitar. I nodded and sat down on one of the steps. Edward opened the passenger door to his truck and pulled out his guitar. He set it down on the ground in front of me and pulled the instrument out of the case. He started digging through a folder and pulled out a crumpled piece of sheet music. It had tape going down the middle, and a yellow stain on it. He sat next to me and set the music on the porch between us. I've wanted to play this for you for a while. He smiled as his fingers started moving over the strings and then started singing. He had the music but never looked at it. His eyes were fixed on me. I died. To see. To touch. To be. With you. To know. To trust. To understand. With you. The adventure has only begun. Through the fields and the forest we'll run. Chase the clouds until we see the sun known by one. From wonder to wonder. I'll travel and discover with you. To have and to hold. If it's hot. Or if it's cold. With you. Just when you think you're lost again. I can be coming through. I will be coming. For you. The adventure has only begun. Through the fields and the forest we run. Chase the clouds till we see the sun. One by one. One by one. I was in awe. The way his lips moved when he sang. The way he would glance up and look in my eyes as he sang. It was like the song was meant for me. Goosebumps erupted all over my body, and I felt dizzy. I know it's not that great, but I wrote it when I was a kid, he said after he strummed the last few notes on the guitar. You just sang a song to me. Don't say it's not that great. Everything about today has been that great, I sighed and put my head on his shoulder. Stuff like this didn't happen to me. Men did not sing songs to me or drive across the country to see me. Guys like Edward did not look at me like he had been looking at me. This was someone else's life, and I was enjoying every second of it. EDW. Ard reached down into his guitar case again and pulled out a CD. He pulled the booklet out of the jacket, opened it and held it out to me. I moved my body so I could read under the porch light. What exactly am I supposed to be looking at? Edward put his guitar down beside him, scooted closer to me, put one arm around me, and with his other hand pointed to a specific spot on the page. Lyrics by E.A. Cullen. I flipped the booklet over. And my mouth fell open. Edward, this is a Mark Piper Band CD. You wrote lyrics for Mark Piper Band. Yeah. They are scheduled to begin recording again in November, and I have a contract for more songs. The publisher I work with is pushing me for 10 songs so he can offer some to other artists' agents too. I need to have them done by the end of next month. But, why are you selling them? Why don't you record them yourself? I asked softly, still in awe of what I was looking at. I don't want to be a recording artist. I like the creative process, but I don't need to be famous. If I can make a living writing music, I would be living my dream. I don't understand. Why don't you want anyone to know? I frowned. This was amazing. This was spectacular. I was sure his family would be proud of him. A couple of years ago I got offered a recording contract. I was in school at the time, and no one in my family wanted me to sign. I'm glad now I didn't do it, but I don't think they take my music seriously, and this means too much to me to have them squash it again. Oh. No, they can't. They couldn't. You're gifted, Edward. This is who you are. I can't tell you how it makes me feel to hear you say things like that, Bella. Edward looked at me in a way that made my insides turn to mush. If I didn't distract myself, I was going to pass out. I studied the CD cover again. Wow. Just wow. This is so amazing, Edward. I'm so proud of you. I can't believe this. I mean, I can believe this. You are an amazing artist. I just had not idea. I'm so glad you have the opportunity to do something you're good at. I mean, you could do anything, I'm sure. You're intelligent. I'm so, wow. Just wow. I can't believe your name is right there. I rubbed my finger over it appreciatively. Bella. Can you stop talking now? As soon as the words left his mouth, he reached up, moved my face towards him, and kissed me. It lasted longer than our first kiss, and I was more convinced than ever that I was dreaming. The way his mouth fit perfectly with mine, the feeling of it being too much and not enough, and the realization that this was exactly where I was supposed to be consumed me. I got lost in him as his lips moved against mine. He was perfect and sweet, not demanding or needy. I felt his affection for me in the kiss, and I tried to let him know that I felt the same. We sat on the porch kissing. And I couldn't tell if seconds or hours had passed. He released my lips and kissed me 2 more times quickly and then kissed me once on my forehead. I've wanted to do that for a very long time. He breathed, still holding my face with his hands. I tried to talk, but I couldn't. Edward had finally found what my parents and plenty of other people had tried to find: sink. I was a small child, the cure to my word vomit. One kiss from him, and I couldn't talk if I'd wanted to. I was speechless. I should go, he said. When can I see you again? Tomorrow. It wasn't a question. He put his things away and stood up. He reached out a hand to help me up, and I took it. Let me walk you to the door, he said. After I'd unlocked it with my free hand, he tried to let my other one go, but I didn't want to. I kept holding on. Bella, I need to go, he chuckled. Okay. I sighed. Promise you'll come back. I promise. He leaned down and kissed me again while he reached behind me and opened my door. Lock the door behind you. I want to make sure you're safe. I nodded and smiled, but I knew that right now I was anything but safe. I wandered into my house in a daze. I kept reaching up to touch my lips to see if they were still attached to my face. I switched on the light and remembered the laptop. Edward had seen. He must have seen. What was he typing? Surely he hadn't. I sat down at the table and opened it up. He had. 9.24.09. Come hell or high water, she'll know. When I kiss her tonight, she'll know. He typed that sitting right here. I was positive. I rubbed my lips again. He was talking about kissing me. He knew I would read this. Edward Cullen wanted me. I started to let myself believe it. When I woke up at 7 the next morning, I sat up with a start. Did that really happen? Did I really make out with Edward freaking Cullen on my front porch, and did he really say all those sweet things to me and sing me a song and tell me he would come back today? I screamed and buried my face in my pillow on my lap. This was crazy. This would never work. He was Alice's brother. He was practically a kid. I needed to distract myself or I was going to go crazy. I grabbed the remote from my side table and switched on the TV. Maybe the weekend news was on. Nothing like images of Johnny Depp to put me at ease. Instead, I was met by an image of Ashton Kutcher walking down a red carpet with Demi Moore. See, the age thing wasn't that creepy. The show ended and another one started. True Hollywood story presents Mary Kay Letourneau. Was it wrong for her to fall for someone half her age, or was it really love? Oh no. That was not what I needed to see right now. Maybe a nice Turner classic would do the trick. Harold and Maude. Crap. I switched it to another channel and Diane Keaton was kissing Keanu Reeves. Sick. I shut off the TV and threw the remote across the room. It must be a sign from God or Buddha or someone. It just wasn't normal to date someone that much younger. I wanted to be the kind of person that didn't care what anyone else thought, but if I were being honest, I did care. I didn't want to be the butt of a million jokes or looked down on like I was some sort of cradle robber. Alice would probably have a heart attack and die if I told her I kissed her brother. Well, technically he kissed me, but I doubted she'd want to hear all the gory details. I needed to be responsible about this. I needed to be an adult and do the right thing. When Edward got here, I would tell him that I cared for him, but that it would never work out for us. I would thank him for the wonderful night last night and tell him to go home and see his family. I would tell Alice that he'd been in town and that I'd convinced him to go back to Seattle. I would be her hero. It would be hard, but in my heart I knew it was right thing to do. I lay in bed focusing all of my resolve on what was before me, when I heard the doorbell ring. Oh no. I was still in my pajama pants and a t-shirt. I looked out the front window, and I saw Edward's truck in the driveway. Fine. It didn't matter anyway. It would probably help if I looked like a freak who just got out of bed. I walked into the living room, swung open the door, and was about to give my speech, when I froze. I was greeted by a smiling Edward wearing the same thing he'd had on last night, holding a coffee carrier in one hand and a bouquet of pink daisies in the other. "You're so beautiful," he said in the sweetest voice ever. All my plans went flying out the window as I sprang toward him, wrapped my arms around his neck. And this time I definitely kissed him. Fireworks. Bella, thank you, but please let me put these down. Edward laughed. I'm going to spill the coffee. I heard him, but I still didn't move my arms from around his neck. Sorry. I was just so happy to see you I couldn't help myself, I said, completely forgetting about my plans to be a responsible adult. Edward started taking steps forward, but I remained glued to him. I walked backwards with him until he finally reached the dining room table and set the coffee and flowers down behind me and took his bag off his shoulder. Then he placed his hands on my hips and kissed me good. Real good. So good, he had to hold me up to keep my knees from buckling as his lips tugged on mine and his scruff scratched my chin. Good morning, I breathed when he let me go. It definitely is. He agreed and pulled me in for a hug. I knew we probably needed to talk about what all this meant. We needed to set some boundaries or discuss how these developments would affect Alice. And what we should or shouldn't tell her about it. I should ask him about Tanya and about exactly what his intention was when he drove across the country to see me. I didn't really want to know the answers to those questions, though. I just wanted to have fun and be with Edward and kiss him again. These are for you, he said almost shyly when he picked up the flowers and handed them to me. Thank you. I practically squealed. I was fighting the urge to giggle and jump up and down and send a mass email to all my friends about what a wonderful day I was having, or tweet about it at least. I knew I was acting like a teenager, but this whole giddy feeling was a rite of passage I seemed to have missed out on, and I was making up for lost time. Do you want some breakfast? I asked. I could take you out. Edward offered. I don't mind cooking you something. You probably haven't had any home-cooked food in a long time. I was hoping you'd say that, he sighed. I've been eating out every meal. Something here would be wonderful. I don't want to impose though. Do you want me to go to the store? That's cute, but no. I've got some things here I can make. Perfect. He exhaled like he was relieved. Would you mind if I took another shower? He seemed so embarrassed. The whole situation was about to send me into another fit of giggles. Please do, I said. Oh, I mean, not that you stink or anything. You smell good. Great really, but I just mean that you can make yourself at home. Do whatever you want. I mean well unless you want to do anything illegal or violent. Lapped my hand over my mouth trying not to let any more words or laughter out. Thank you. Edward shook his head and smiled as he walked toward the bathroom. He looked back over his shoulder at me, and I waved with my free hand. I was holding my mouth shut with the other one until he was safely out of sight. He winked at me and continued down the hallway. I went into the kitchen and started getting things out to make omelets. I was no Alice in the kitchen, but I was a decent cook. I cut up some onions and green peppers and started sautéing them along with some chopped up bacon. Edward came in the kitchen a few minutes later wearing an undershirt and basketball shorts. I could not wipe the crazy smile off my face. "That smells amazing," he said and reached into the pan to pull out a piece of bacon. "Hey, no stealing." I swatted his arm playfully. He leaned with his back against the counter and watched me cook. He didn't feel the need to talk a lot, so I didn't either. I stole glances every now and then. And he would either smile at me or wink at me, causing me to giggle. I started to annoy myself, but he seemed to like it. I finished our omelets, and we sat at the kitchen table to eat them. Edward kept moaning and telling me how good it was. I knew he was either exaggerating and buttering me up, or he was really, really hungry. Either way, I didn't mind it one bit. Well, the moaning was a little distracting. But in a good way. "What do you want to do today?" I asked, trying to pull my mind out of the gutter. Edward gave me a look which made me blush, and I was sure that if I'd just taken a drink of my coffee, I would have spit it all over him. He practically knocked me back into the gutter, but we were not going there. "Not yet. I mean, do you have plans for today, or do you want me to show you around? Maybe do some sightseeing?" "That sounds fun." Edward shrugged like he didn't really care. I still couldn't shake the giddy feeling I had about him being here. I couldn't remember ever feeling like I was going to explode with happiness before. I was like a piñata, but filled with happiness instead of candy. And hopefully no one would be hitting me with a broom. I finished eating, and Edward was still drinking his coffee. "I think I'm going to go get ready," I announced and stood up. I started to walk away, but Edward grabbed my hand and pulled me back. He kissed the inside of my wrist and then let go. "Don't be gone long," he said in a low voice. I stumbled toward the door in a daze, and as soon as it swung shut behind me, I let out a scream of excitement. I couldn't hold it in any longer. "What happened? What's wrong?" Edward came running out behind me. "Oh, nothing. Just saw a spider. It's gone though," I sigh with a red face. "Oh, well, go shower, and I'll look for it." "Where did it go?" he asked. "Over there under the rug." I pointed and then quickly went to my bedroom to get ready. Edward couldn't think of anything he wanted to see except for me in Boston, much to my delight. That left me to figure out where to take him on my own though. I decided to do what I did with my dad when he visited, and we took the train out to Fenway Park and went on the stadium tour. We both pretended to be interested in the Green Monster Wall and the stories about all the insane fans that risked their lives to sit near the field. It was fun just being together, and I finally felt like one of the people I was always jealous of. I was here, holding on to a man that wanted to be here with me, and I wanted him here even more. Everything he did was funny or romantic, and I don't think I'd ever smiled that much in one day in my entire life. A guy at the park told us we could walk to see the old Navy ships from there if we were up for a small hike. Normally, I would have been lazy and taken a taxi, but with Edward there, the idea of a walk seemed nice. He was always touching me in some way. We were either holding hands, or he had his hand on my back or around my shoulder. Times he pulled me close and kissed my forehead or my hair. He was so sweet and attentive. We walked by a group of young guys, and he pulled me to the other side of him to put himself between us. He held the door open for me. He took my hand to help me down the steps of the ship. He laughed when I tried to be funny, and our conversation flowed comfortably. I wasn't used to being treated like this. It felt amazing. By the end of our adventure, I was pretty sure Edward was the most perfect person ever created. You could have told me he had just gone on a cross-country killing spree, and I wouldn't have cared. I was smitten, entranced, and crazed with longing for him. By late afternoon, we got Thai food to go and went back to my place. We laughed and ate with chopsticks. Edward made fun of me for getting food all over my shirt. I couldn't help it. Chopsticks were hard. I'd better get going. I need to get into the campground and set up the tent before it gets too late, Edward sighed when we finished eating. When can I see you again? Tomorrow. I was more embarrassed about it this time. What if he was getting sick of me? What if he had other things to do while he was in the area? Why did he want to leave so early? Tomorrow is perfect, he said and pulled me up from the couch with him. Would you mind if I brought some laundry over? I'm pretty much out of clean clothes. Sure. I have to go to work in the morning. Since it's Monday, but you can come over earlier if you want. I can give you a key. You're sure you don't mind? Of course, just don't go trying on my underwear or anything weird like that. That would really freak me out if I caught you wearing my underwear. I mean, not that it would fit you. You're bigger than me, especially well, you know. Edward grabbed me forcefully and used his superpower on my lips. I realized that all I had to do to get him to kiss me was start talking. I planned to use that to my advantage, and often. Edward told me good night, and I stood at the door and watched him walk to his truck. He looked back before he got in and waved. I waved back, and I was still standing there smiling after he drove away. Best day ever. It was still a little early for bed, so I decided to sit on the couch and read. I had the windows open, and I noticed it had started sprinkling outside. Poor Edward. He would have to put up a tent in the rain. It must be a paw in to put it up and take it down every day. Maybe I should offer my spare bedroom after all. I mean, it was raining, for goodness sake. Surely he wouldn't misread my intentions. I didn't want him to think I was calling him back for sex. I just didn't like the idea of him out there in the rain, and I really hoped he didn't get the wrong idea. I picked up my phone and stared at it, trying to decide what to do. I probably wouldn't be able to sleep with him so close by. This wasn't about me though. I could make this sacrifice for him. Really, it was the least I could do. I found his number and pushed talk. Bella, is everything okay? Edward asked in a worried tone. Oh yeah, I was just wondering what you were doing, I lied. I'm just sitting in my truck waiting for the rain to stop. I'm glad you called. I resisted the urge to start giggling again. Instead, I took a deep breath and said, I was actually wondering if you wanted to spend the night. I mean, I'm not propositioning you. I'm not like that. So I hope you don't think I am like that. I mean, I don't want you to expect to come here and find me naked in my bed or anything, and I want you to keep on your clothes too. Unless you just sleep in your boxers or something. That's fine. I just thought you might like a bed to sleep in, and I have an extra one. I mean, besides mine. I would have offered it earlier, but I thought you might get the wrong idea. Oh, Bella, Edward sighed. Sometimes I wonder if you're crazy. Me too, I sighed. I swear something happens to me when I start talking to you. I can't stop myself. I'll take that as a compliment. And I would love to come stay with you in a separate bed with my clothes on. Okay. Good. I'm glad. I mean, not that you'll have your clothes on, I just. Bella. He interrupted me. Please stop before you embarrass us both. It was hard enough earlier with you talking about your underwear. I thought I was going to have to ask to use your shower again, and I'm about to have to pull over and stand in the rain now. You're not making this easy on me. Oh right. I was glad he couldn't see my embarrassment. Okay. So I'll see you soon. Thank you, Bella. You're welcome, Edward. I ran to the spare room, which was really my junk room, and I started shoving crap under the bed, in the drawers, anywhere it would fit. I had stacks of copies of my news clippings on my desk where I'd been putting together my examples to send out with my resume. I straightened those. I had a picture of Alice and me on the bedside table. I grabbed that and stuffed it in a drawer. I wasn't ready to think about her yet. I grabbed fresh sheets out of my linen closet and started stripping the bed. I had barely finished turning down the covers and turning on the bedside lamp when the doorbell rang. I dashed to the front door and flipped on the porch light. Edward was standing there, soaking wet, holding his guitar case in one hand and his bag in the other. I didn't know it was raining that hard. I said as I held the door open for him. You look like a wet rat. A really hot wet rat. It just started coming down harder. Edward shivered. Do you have a towel I can use? No problem, I said. I grabbed a towel. owned the bathroom and came back out to find Edward setting his stuff down on my welcome mat. Instead of handing him the towel, I reached up with it and started wiping the water off his face. He stared. My eyes moved his arm so that he was holding my waist. My heart started pounding in anticipation, and I wanted to peel those wet clothes right off of him. Suddenly he dropped his hand from my waist and sighed. I'd better get away from you if I'm just going to sleep here. I was about to argue with him that we could do a little more than sleep, but I already felt so out of control that I didn't want to do something I would regret. I knew if we started something, I wouldn't be able to stop it. Instead, I hugged him. I squeezed as hard as I could, trying to let him know how much I appreciated the day we'd had and that he was here and that he apparently didn't just want to get laid. He squeezed back, and I felt him kiss my hair. Now you're all wet too, he said as he released me. It was worth it. Your room is this way. I grabbed his bag in his hand, and pulled him toward the back of the house. You turned down the bed for me? He asked with a silly grin on his face. Yes, I'm very hospitable, I said matter-of-factly. Very. Well, you know where everything is in the bathroom, and you can help yourself to whatever you want in the house. My face turned red. I knew it was red. Everything I said was starting to sound sexual to me. I was in so much trouble. Thank you for everything. Well, okay then. Good night. I backed out of the room and closed the door. Night. I went into my room and started getting ready for bed. I put on my shorts and t-shirt that I usually wore and went out to brush my teeth in the bathroom. I practically ran into a shirtless Edward wearing the same basketball shorts from the morning and holding a toothbrush. Ladies first, he gestured toward the bathroom. Oh, you can come too. I'm just brushing my teeth. Unless you need to use the toilet too, that might be weird. Shish, Bella. Okay, I said defensively. We brushed our teeth side by side, and I kept catching him looking at me in the mirror. I finished brushing, and it was time to spit. I really didn't want to spit in front of him. We weren't far enough along in the relationship for me to start spitting. Ca wiu tun awan oica sput. I said with my mouth full of toothpaste. What? He spit his toothpaste in the sink and asked. Tun awan. I motioned in a circle with my hand, but when I said it, a big drop of white toothpaste drool came out of my mouth and traveled down my chin. So much for being ladylike. Edward laughed and turned around. I spit the rest of it into the sink, rinsed out my mouth, and wiped off my chin. So do you want to tuck me in? Edward asked with sly grin on his face as he leaned against the doorway of the bathroom. Yeah, that would make this so much less weird. Me tucking the 22-year-old I've been kissing in and telling him night-night. Why? Does my age bother you? He crossed his arms over his chest and seemed defensive. I knew we needed to have this conversation. I hadn't really pictured us having it in bathroom and him being half naked though. No. Yes. I don't know. It doesn't bother me. Edward sighed confidently. I think we should talk about it in the morning, I said dismissively. Whatever you want. Bella, he sighed in frustration, walked into his room, and shut the door. What was going on? The day had been perfect, and now Edward was irritated with me. There was only one thing to do. I checked my hair and smelled my breath to make sure it was good. I even spritzed a little body spray over myself. I'd show him strawberry fields. I knocked lightly on the door and turned the handle. Edward was lying on his back in the bed, holding up a book. Every part of my body wanted to crawl up on top of him and show him how I felt, but I couldn't. Hey, I came to tuck you in. I thought that would make it weirder. He really was a powder. It was a good thing he was so good looking. Well, I told you, I'm hospitable. If you want to be tucked in, I can't very well say no. Fine, he huffed, but I could see his lips turn up in a faint smile. He put the book down and moved his arms under the covers. I pulled the blankets up around him and tucked them over his shoulders. There, snug as a bug in a rug, I said as I pushed the blanket around his body on the sides. The look on his face was making it very difficult not to jump him. I leaned over his face and gave him a soft kiss on the nose and then his mouth. I promise we'll talk in the morning, I whispered. Sweet dreams. They always are, he whispered back. A full smile had returned to his face, and I knew I had done my job well. I backed slowly out of the room, shut the door, turned and leaned against it, trying to slow down my racing heart. This boy would be the end of me. The burn. I got up for work the next morning and couldn't help but peek into Edward's room before I left. His hair was a disaster as he lay on his back, his chest moving up and down with each breath. I could have stood there all day watching him, but somebody had to bring home the bacon. Actually, Edward had plenty of bacon, but I didn't. He was still asleep when I left, so I wrote him a note telling him what time I'd be home, that we could talk then, and to help himself to anything he wanted. I practically skipped into the office. I swear the birds were singing. The sun was shining. Everything seemed different and better. I sat down at my computer and checked my email. There was one from Drive. Cullen. Bella dear. Sorry for not getting back with you sooner. But I have a couple of leads for you. One is with the News Tribune in Tacoma. I think this option would be lovely, and you would be so close to Alice. The editor Th. Air is looking for someone to cover human interest in the area, which includes a Fort Lewis and McChord Air Force Base. He says the job would include international travel as members of the community are deployed overseas. Now, I know this isn't quite your dream job, but it would give you more international experience. The Tribune also had Marcus Voltaire on staff, who is an older man and he worked for many years as a world news analyst. I'm sure you came across his name in your studies. He's an old cook, and I never found him to be all that appealing, but he would be a great reference, if you're able to charm him. He's semi-retired now. My other lead is with an old friend who works for Newsweek in New York. He covered a major find I had in a dig by the Dead Sea a few years ago, when they did a piece on archaeology. He says he can find an entry-level position for you there and that it would be a great opportunity. I don't like the idea of you living in New York. It can be such a lonely city. I'll paste their information below. Get in contact with them, and see if anything comes of it. Much love. Grandma Cullen. Wow. Everything seemed to be happening at once. I knew I would need a connect. Tion like this to get the type of job I wanted, and Dr. Cullen had definitely come through. Edward was right. She knew everyone. As appealing as the New York job sounded, the one in Tacoma would also mean being close to all the Cullens. It would mean living close to Edward. Did Edward want me to live close to him? What did he think was going on? I worried he was just here to have fun. That he was taking advantage of my obvious attraction to him as a way to escape the things that had been bothering him at home. I was trying so hard not to hope for something more. I knew the deck was stacked against us. Nothing about our being together made sense. Our ages, where we lived, and, let's face it, he was extremely attractive while I was average at best. Still, the last 2 days had been magical. He was so different away from his family. He seemed happy and carefree and cute. Very cute. I hurried through my work, successfully avoided Mike, and left at 5 on the dot. Traffic made me crazy. And as soon as I pulled into my driveway, I practically sprinted up the steps. I opened the door and was hit by the smell of something cooking. Edward. In here, he called from the kitchen. I found him stirring a pot with one of my aprons on. What are you doing? I giggled. Just making my girl dinner. He put down the spoon, walked my direction, bent down, and kissed me on the cheek. How was work? Not as good as this, I said with wide eyes. I could get used to this. I hope so, Edward replied. Edward, what are we doing here? I asking, wringing my fingers together and staring at the floor. The question came out of nowhere. But suddenly I needed to know. Well, we're going to eat spaghetti in a few minutes. I'm sorry, I don't know how to cook a lot of different things. Spaghetti is kind of my specialty. No, I whined in exasperation. I told you we'd talk today, and I'm trying to talk. I mean, what are we doing here? I gestured back and forth between us with my hand. Sit down at the table, and we'll talk. Edward didn't look so calm and confident all of a sudden. He looked worried. I thought I was about to throw up. Edward brought me a plate of spaghetti with tomato sauce, salad, and bread. It was the first time a man had ever cooked me dinner. I wanted to take a picture of it, but he might think that was weird. Edward got himself a plate and sat beside me. He took a bite, the entire time staring at his food. Please, say something, I begged. I'm scared if I say too much, I'll scare you off. Why? I don't know what you mean. If anyone is going to scare anyone off, it will be me scaring you off. Edward laughed at that. You might be right. Hey. I slapped his arm. What? You said it. I've just never been around anyone like you. You're insecure, but you have this quiet confidence at the same time. You talk too much. You say the craziest things, especially when you're nervous. You can barely walk on flat ground, and I'm surprised you don't have spaghetti sauce on your shirt yet. Oh. My face fell. This was worse than I thought. But I can't get you out of my head. You're all I've thought about for as long as I can remember, and now that I know you, it's something even more. I don't know anything anymore except the fact that I have to be with you. Oh. Well, that wasn't so bad actually. I've never felt about anyone the way I feel about you. I want you so much it terrifies me. Oh. This was really quite good. Bella. Will you say something besides? Oh. Edward groaned in exasperation. Thank you, I said. Edward put his napkin down on the table, pushed his chair back, and dropped his head down into his hands. No, I mean, I just don't know what to say. This is all just so awesome. I should have known this would be a joke to you. No, it's not a joke. I'm just scared. I don't know why you're here. I don't know if this is like a stop on the road for you or if it's something more. I don't know what you see in me. I don't have any idea what I'm doing. I don't know anything right now except for the fact that you make me happy. Is that really what you think? You think I would have written you all those poems and that song and driven all the way across the country if this wasn't important to me? I wish you would take this more seriously, because I've never been more serious about anything. Tears started pouring out of my eyes, and I made a no. Eyes that could only be described as that of a dying animal. Bella, why are you crying? Edward jumped out of his seat and kneeled in front of me with his hands on my knees. You said you wrote me poems, I sobbed. I'm sorry. I know they weren't my best work, but no, I wanted them to be about me. The tears started coming even harder. You what? Edward asked, full of confusion. No one ever wrote me poems before, I choked out. I don't believe you. My wailing was sure to bother the neighbors any second. Bella, of course I wrote them for you. I didn't update my blog for over a year until I knew you were reading it. I thought it would be so obvious. He started wiping the tears off my face. Finally, he picked me up, carried me into the living room, and sat me down on his lap. He was stroking my hair and kissing the tears from my eyes. It's all about you, Bella. It's always been about you. I buried my head in his neck and cried. It was too much. It was too wonderful. After I calmed down, I looked up at him and said, So you really came all the way here for me? Of course I did, silly Bella. His eyes were full of tenderness and concern. I thought I was losing my mind. In Seattle, I couldn't stop thinking about you, and I felt so guilty and stupid. I still have no idea what I'm doing. We'll figure it out together. Edward squeezed my arm. But you're going to have to leave. When are you leaving? The tears started to fall again at the thought of it. I don't know. I have to be back in time to record the songs I've been working on, but I don't really have a plan. I have at least a few weeks. You would stay here with me all the time. I think I would stay with you forever. Whoa. This was quickly spinning out of control. Let's just take it one day at a time for now. I mean, if you don't want me to stay here, of course I can go back to the campground, or if you want me to leave, just tell me. No. I panicked. That's not it, but you'll get sick of me soon, I argued. No, I won't. Edward sighed confidently. You'll find someone younger, I protested. I don't want someone younger. I want you. I told you your age doesn't bother me. I don't want it to bother you either. But people will call me cougar or say I'm robbing the cradle. You're not even very much older. No one's going to care. Edward ran the back of his hand up and down my face lovingly. What about Alice? What about your parents? They would hate me if they found out. They can't hate you. We all love you. They'll be happy for us. I think you're underestimating Alice, I argued. Did he just say he loved me? Maybe. You're right, but I don't care. It's my life. I reached my palm up and felt his forehead. What are you doing? He chuckled. I'm seeing if you have a fever. Something must be wrong with you. Bella. He growled playfully. I smiled at him and kissed him quickly on the lips. The nice dinner you made for me is cold now. Sit here, and I'll heat it up and bring some out to you. I don't know what's going to happen when I have to leave, but while I'm here I plan to take care of you. Edward moved me off of his lap and jogged into the kitchen. I fell back against the cushions and sighed. The poems were about me. They were about me. I mean, I wondered and I hoped, but I didn't dare believe it. It was too wonderful. Edward brought me my food, and we ate and watched a movie. I cuddled up next to him after we finished eating and ended up falling asleep. Sobbing uncontrollably because I was so happy must have worn me out. The next thing I knew, Edward was pulling the covers up over me in my bed. I'm in bed, I yawned. I tried to wake you, but you were dead to the world, Edward sighed. Was all I could say. I desperately wanted to go back to sleep. Edward tucked me in, shut off the light, bent over me and ghosted the sweetest kiss on my lips. Good night, Cleopatra, he whispered. I whispered back and drifted off into sleep. I woke up the next morning and found a note from Edward on the coffee pot. Bella, I can't find the words to tell. The song I want to sing. The feelings you open. The questions you answer. So I'll sing to you with my touch. And feel you with my heart. And ask for more again and again. Don't stay gone too long. Love, EAC. It took everything inside of me not to start wailing like a banshee again. Those words were written for me. I didn't have to wonder or hope. I knew. It had my name on it. I ran my hand over the paper and knew I would keep this forever. I wanted to wake him up and answer some of those questions. I wanted to experience more of that touching he wrote about. Stupid adulthood. It could be so inconvenient sometimes. I told myself not to analyze that love thing too much. He might say he wasn't worried about our ages. But we were at different places in our lives. I was old enough to want to settle down yesterday. Edward was young enough to have plenty of time to see what's out there. I didn't want to put what this was into any type of box or category yet. I spent the afternoon at workout covering a fire in Brookline, and since I'd already finished my other story for the day about the need for more police officers on patrol, I didn't want to mess with going back to the office. I stopped at a Starbucks, typed up the fire piece, and sent it to my editor. I waited a while to see if I needed to make any major revisions. And as soon as I got the all clear, I headed home for Edward time. I found him sitting on the front porch playing his guitar. He was just too good. He was smart, beautiful, and he could sing. If he didn't want to make out with me, I would definitely hate him. I sat down next to him, and he kept playing with a smirk on his face. What are you thinking? I can tell you're up to no good, I demanded. It's just I always pictured you more like Lois Lane in a short little skirt or some sort of a business suit. But the khakis and cardigan are nice too. I can't believe you. I slapped him. I guess you are related to Alice after all. Who do you think you are, Clark Kent? Well, I do like to think of myself as a Superman. You'd look sexy in glasses. So you think I'm sexy? Edward asked. The look on his face nearly made me swoon. Like you have to ask. I rolled my eyes, walked up the steps, and went inside. I heard the door open a few seconds later, but I pretended like I was too busy looking through the mail to notice. A smile spread across my face as Edward enveloped me from behind and kissed my neck. Welcome home, he whispered in my ear. Thank you for the note, I said as I turned around to face him. The first of many. I hope, he replied as he ran his fingers up and down my arm, causing goosebumps to erupt all over my body. I would like to take you out tonight. On a date. I was so nervous the last time. I could barely enjoy myself. I don't make you nervous anymore. Everything I said sounded so flirty. I was turning into a monster. It's a different kind of nervous now. He leaned in and nibbled on my earlobe. I let out a little shriek. Are you okay? He laughed, pulling away from me. Me. Oh, I'm fine, I said and started fanning myself with the mail that was still in my hand. I'd never been so turned on. It was definitely getting hot in here. Edward laughed again and had a cocky grin on his face when he said, Go get ready, Swan. Our reservations are for 7:30, and it's a nice place. In other words, lose the cardigan. I rolled my eyes. Lose the cardigan. He nodded and walked off to his room. It only took an instant for me to form my plan. If he wanted Lois Lane, he'd get Lois Lane. I flew to my room and pulled out the suit I wore to cover City Hall meetings. It was one of my best purchases, and even Alice approved of it when I sent her a picture. It had a navy pencil skirt with a high slit in the back and a matching jacket. Instead of the usual top I wore under it, I found something a little more form-fitting and left the buttons of the jacket undone. I ed my hair up in a wispy bun on top of my head, stuck a pencil behind my ear, and put on my glasses. I wasn't sure if I looked more like Lois Lane or a librarian, but hopefully he'd get the point. When I felt like I looked decent, I opened the door to the hallway. Edward was coming out of his room at the same time. I froze. He was wearing dark-rimmed glasses, and he was definitely sexy. He had on dark jeans and a black button-up shirt tucked in with a belt and everything. That wasn't all. There were no wrinkles. He ironed. For me. You have on glasses, I giggled. You look like Lois Lane. He was looking me up and down like he wanted to eat me. You think? I asked. Bella, I don't know how we're ever going to make it out the door. With that he took 3 steps forward, slammed my body up against the wall and starting kissing me in a way I had never been kissed before. It was passion and heat and fire and I didn't want him to stop. I was in so much trouble. Just as I threaded my fingers rough Edward's hair and he started kissing down my neck, the doorbell rang. You're kidding me. Edward knocked his head on the wall behind me. Why? I whined. Please just go away. The doorbell rang again. I peeked around the corner, so I could try to see who it was. Oh no. It was Mike. Crap. I forgot to tell Mike I was busy. We usually go out on Tuesday nights. Seriously. It's Mike. Good. I want to see who I'm up against. Edward peeked around the corner too, and I grabbed him and pulled him back. Trust me, there's no competition. Just let me get rid of him. Just hurry. Edward whispered in my ear and kissed my neck again. I hated Mike Newton. I pushed Edward away, straightened my clothes, and went to answer the door. Oh no. This could not be happening. Not here. Not now. I was going to die of embarrassment. I slowly opened the door. Mike, why are you dressed like that? I couldn't hide the irritation in my voice. Bella, I'm Han Solo. Remember the convention is this week. You promised you'd go with me just this once. Crap. I had promised that when I was in a hurry to get him off the phone one day. Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry, Mike, I can't go. I have company. But, baby, I've missed you. Mike grabbed me a huge bear hug, lifting me off the ground. The hilt of his lightsaber ground into my thigh, and I cried out in pain. Ow. Put me down. Come on, baby. Change out of your work clothes, and let's go. I didn't know there was a city council meeting today. Oh, there wasn't. I heard Edward clear his throat, and looked over to find him leaning against the doorway with his arms crossed over his chest. Oh, wow. This is Mike. This is Edward Cullen. He's Alice's little brother, and he was just stopping by while he took a road trip. Kind of a pilgrimage type of thing. Oh hey, how's it going, kid? Mike walked over to shake Edward's hand. Edward shook it and said, oh, just busy being Alice's brother. Oh man. He was mad. I should have known he'd be mad. I didn't mean to introduce him as her brother. I just didn't know what to do. Everything was happening so fast. Hey, would you mind giving us some privacy? I haven't seen my baby in weeks, Mike said to Edward. No, no, no. This was bad. Very bad. Edward glared at me, turned, stomped to his room and slammed the door. Knowing him, he would be pouting for a good long while. He seems moody, Mike said, and turned back to me. Are you sure you can't go? I have a Princess Leia costume in the car just in case I could talk you into wearing it. No, Mike, no. Do you really think I would wear a Star Trek costume? I whined. Bella, it's Star Wars. He huffed. Was there a difference? Well, what about the Renaissance Fair this weekend? You would look so good in one of those corsets. Please, just stop. This has got to stop. I cried. Mike, I took a deep breath. Mike, I almost chickened out and told him I'd call him Saturday, but I had to do this. I kissed someone else. Mike's face fell, and I knew I was the biggest jerk in the history of the world. Okay. I'm sure we can get past this. Mike said as he stared at the ground. No, Mike. We can't. This is not working. We don't work together. I care about you, but we have nothing in common. We don't like to talk about the same things or do the same things or anything. I'm sorry. I've been using you, and I don't want to hurt you, but we can't do this anymore. I just keep hoping that if we give it enough time, things will start to fall into place. If we've made it this long, there must be something there. I'm so sorry. I know you're a wonderful man. We're just not right for each other. I think deep down you know that. Mike shrugged. I do get tired of always having to fix your toilet, and you snore. You get so grumpy sometimes too, it's like you have no patience. You're right. I'm not that great of a catch, I agreed. I'll be honest. I'm really not into those chick flicks either, and I hate how you always cancel at the last minute. There have been so many times I could have made plans with the D&D guys. I'm sorry, Mike, I sighed. He stood silently thinking for a few moments. You know, I think I'm okay with this. There's actually this Klingon girl I've had my eye on. And now I don't have an Earthling tying me down. See, there ya go. I smiled and punched him in the arm. I just want you to know that we can still be friends, and if you still need to be like friends with benefits, then that's fine with me. I mean, I realize you have needs. No, he didn't. I think you better go now. You've got a Klingon to chase, I said and started walking toward the front door. You sure you don't want to go with me? I can't tell you how many times I've pictured you in this outfit, Mike said wistfully. Ew. Mike, no. I opened the door. Okay. I'll call you or stop by your desk tomorrow. We can have lunch or something. Yes. Let's talk soon. I smiled, tried to gesture for him to get going. It's not the end of the world for you, Bells. You'll meet someone too. Mike reached up and squeezed my arm to reassure me. Wait, who was dumping who? Thanks. Means a lot. See you tomorrow. If you ever want to talk. Oh my gosh. I ate the biggest burrito for lunch, and I've really got to go if you know what I mean. I started pretending to do some sort of potty dance. Oh yeah, I was wondering about the smell. By then, Mike looked a little afraid when he finally walked out the front door. I wasn't sure how I felt about what just happened. Relieved, offended, overjoyed, irritated. Probably a combination of all of them, but at least he was finally gone. Now I had to find a way to deal with Clark Kent in the other room. Everything was going so well before the kryptonite showed up and killed the mood. I knew it sounded bad. I introduced him as Alice's little brother, and he was so much more than that. I just didn't know what to do. Everything happened at once, and what was I supposed to call him? My boyfriend. I wasn't sure we'd reached that status yet, and I didn't have a boyfriend without Alice knowing about it. It would devastate her. I had no idea about how she would feel about Edward and me, and I hadn't talked to him about it yet. She entertained the joke. But the reality might be completely different. I would think about that later. Right now I had to get Edward out of that room. I would start with groveling. I walked to the door and knocked softly. Edward. He's gone now. Can we talk? I asked as sweetly as possible. Silence. Edward. I'm sorry. I was just caught off guard and embarrassed that he brought a lightsaber with him. More silence. You. Re so much more to me than Alice's brother. You're amazing and thoughtful, and I care about you so much. Still silence. You looked really sexy in those glasses. Even more silence. This called for something drastic. I had to work fast. Edward, I'm out here taking off my shirt. If you open the door, you can see my bra. It's black lace. The door cracked open. Victory. Explosion. We never made it to dinner. And I never made it to my bed that night. We probably should have talked, and I probably should have groveled a bit more and begged for forgiveness, but Edward seemed to be satisfied with not talking. I've never been very good at math or sports, but I'm pretty sure we only passed a couple of bases. Then, we just snuggled up and went to sleep like it was the most natural thing in the world. Of course, then I woke up and had my daily meltdown. I was lying on my back, and Edward was lying on his stomach with his hand draped lazily across my waist. His deep breaths were causing a couple of hairs on his forehead to move. And as I glanced down, I noticed his arms looked strong and toned. I was more physically attracted to Edward than I had ever been to another human being. I mean, I went rough that Neil Patrick Harris obsession when I was younger, but I finally realized he wasn't a prodigy, he was an actor. It never would have worked out anyway. Justin Timberlake might be bringing sexy back. But Edward brought it even further. It was exciting and terrifying at the same time. I still didn't know what I was doing. There were a lot of topics which still needed to be discussed, like Alice and his family, Tanya. And what would happen when he had to leave? When we weren't kissing or talking, things seemed so complicated. My brain would take over, and my thoughts would get away from me. I'd convince myself of the most ridiculous things or decide it wasn't meant to be. On the other hand, when we were kissing or talking to each other, things were simple. They flowed. It was as raw as talking to someone I'd known my entire life, well, except for when he started getting me flustered or nervous. Then I started talking like a 13-year-old girl with ADHD. Maybe I just needed to stop thinking so much and go with it. Or I could make a checklist. I snuck out from under his arm and crawled out of the bed. I tiptoed over to my desk and got out a pad of paper. Things to talk to Edward about. _______1. Talk about Alice. _______2. Decide how to tell Alice about us. No. There was something else I needed to know first. I crossed that one off. _______2. Decide if this is going to become something serious enough to have to tell Alice about, or if this is just a toward summer extending into fall affair and a secret we will take to our graves. _______3. Decide how to tell Alice about us. _______4. Ask if he is dating, married to, and or friends with benefits with Tanya. _______5. Ask if he is Tanya's baby daddy. _______6. Find out if there is any way I can meet Mark Piper and can he get us tickets to a concert. _______7. Follow up on toward summer affair, ongoing relationship question. I knew most of the questions were silly, but I needed reassurance. For some reason I needed to hear the words Rom his mouth so I could finally dismiss all the conspiracy theories rolling around in my head. I stuck the list in my desk and went to shower. By the time I finished my list and got ready, Edward was still sleeping. I did not want to go to work. I just wanted to cuddle with Edward and maybe go through my checklist. I guess it was normal for Edward to sleep late. He was young and a musician. He wasn't likely to be a morning person. But I hated leaving every day without talking to him. I decided I would write him a poem and leave it by the coffee pot. You don't need a cape to be my Superman. Yo. You just need to touch me with your super hand. I don't care if you sleep late like a bum. 'Cause when I'm with you, we always have fun. Not that you dress bad, and you don't smell. I just don't know how to write poems well. I'm happy you're here and I'll see you tonight. I'll try not to hurt you, but I can't promise not to bite. Well, it wasn't Hemingway, but it would have to do. I said it by the coffee pot and finished getting ready for work. Later that day at work, I was sitting at my desk finishing a story when I heard my cell phone beep that I had a text. I have super hands. It was from Edward. I started giggling when I read it. Wellies. I hit send back to him. Another text came a few minutes later. Good to know. I miss you. Come home soon. I giggled when I read it and started giggling even harder. As I started to type that I missed him more when Vicky came over to my desk. Swan, what has gotten into you? I've never seen you act so happy, she asked suspiciously, standing at my desk. Oh, it's nothing, I lied. You're lying. It's been going on for days now. Come on, spill it. Vicky and I had known each other for a few years. We were the kind of friends that went out to happy hour occasionally. But not the kind of friends that shared our deepest thoughts and feelings with each other. Really, it's nothing, I giggled again when I got another text. That's impossible. I miss you infinity. Bella Swan, is it a man? Are you seeing someone new? Was I that obvious? Yes, I said tentatively. I wasn't sure how to describe Edward. Well, plenty of words came to mind, but most of them were not appropriate for the workplace. Do tell. What's his name? She wheeled another chair over to my desk and made herself at home. Crap. How was I going to get out of this? Edward. Oh, he sounds sophisticated. How did you two meet? What does he do? He's related to one of my friends, and he's a musician, I offered. How long have you known him? Come on, Swan, do I have to beat the details out of you? How did you get together? It's kind of complicated. I love complicated. She leaned forward ready for the story. I was going to have to give her something. Well, I've known him for several years, but when I was on vacation, we reconnected. And spent a lot of time together. He happened to be traveling in the area and decided to spend some time with me here. It's all still kind of new and undefined. I guess we're seeing each other. How often have you been seeing him? Her smile was really making me uncomfortable. She was looking at me like I was a child she was humoring. Well, every day since Saturday. He's kind of staying with me while he's in town. Oh, so he doesn't live here. She sat up a little straighter like she was finally getting to the good stuff. Nope. Where does he live? I'm just going to keep asking questions until I'm satisfied, she said. He lives in Seattle, I sighed. She was being awfully nosy. So are you going to do long distance? She made a pouty face like she felt sorry for me. I'm not sure yet. It's all still pretty new. So when do I get to meet him? She finally stood up, and I felt relieved. Unfortunately, she just went to get her BlackBerry and came right back. Are you guys free Friday night? We were free every night as far as I knew. The only plans I had for the near future were to spend more time making out. We didn't exactly have a full social calendar. I guess I'll need to make sure it's okay with him. Oh, that's fine. Just text me when you get home tonight. I'll invite some of the other couples over too. We'll make a dinner party out of it. Vicky's dinner parties were half the reason I started dating Mike. They were fine if you were part of a couple, but awkward if you were single. The same people came every time. Some of them I liked. Some of them I tolerated. I got tired of going alone and feeling like I didn't fit in, but my friends at work gave me a hard time if I stayed home. So I brought Mike, and they weren't so bad. I mean, until he started talking about the space-time continuum or something like that. I had no idea what Edward would think about this. Were we a couple? Could we go to couple things together? People would probably ask why I was bringing my nephew to dinner or if I was babysitting. I had to get out of this. I needed an excuse. Maybe I could schedule surgery or break my leg. I could try to fall down the stairs when I left work that afternoon. By the time I got home, I hadn't managed to break my leg. I just decided I would tell Vicky we were busy or that Edward didn't want to go. Edward, I called out when I walked in the front door. His truck was still out front, but he didn't seem to be around. I looked through the house. His guitar was here. His phone was here. His bag was here. Where was he? I changed out of my work clothes, sat down on the couch, and flipped on the TV. A few minutes later, Edward came in the front door. He was sweaty, like he'd been working out. He was wearing sneakers, shorts, and one of my college t-shirts. Did he put it on because it was tight on him? Was he trying to impress me with his body? It was working. As soon as he saw me, his face lit up. "You're home. You run?" I asked. I realized there were still a lot of things about him that I didn't know. Sometimes. He shrugged and made his way over to the couch. He bent down and kissed me quickly. "Is it okay if I shower before we catch up?" he asked as he took his phone off the dining room table and looked at it. "Sure." I smiled. He set his phone down the coffee table in front of me, kissed me again, and headed toward the bathroom. This was the life. I sighed and leaned back on the couch. I heard Edward's phone vibrate and had an idea. It would be funny if I programmed in some cheesy ringtone to go with my number. Maybe I just called to say I love you. No. Too much too soon. I touch myself. No. Too suggestive. I can't fight this feeling anymore. That would be perfect. I grabbed his phone off the coffee table and flipped it open. The screen said, "One new MSG from Tanya." I shouldn't. I couldn't. I had to. I opened the message. "I can't wait to try it out on you. It feels so right." What couldn't she wait to try out? Was she talking about some sexual position? I scrolled through the other messages from Tanya. "We missed you today." Was it some sort of threesome? "When are you coming back? The last 3 weeks have been amazing. I can't believe you decided to go now." Amazing. He had amazing with her. I thought we were having amazing. I decided to look at the outgoing texts to Tanya. "We'll go at it again when I get back." I couldn't believe this. I was such an idiot. He already had plans to sleep with Tanya again when he went home. I was just grateful that I hadn't slept with him yet. Who knows what kind of diseases that man whore in my shower was carrying around. I just knew this was all too good to be true, and here I had proof. I heard the water turn off, and a few minutes later Edward came back out to the living room. I was sitting straight up on the couch with my arms folded across my chest glaring at him. The smile melted from his face. "Bella, what's the matter? What are you doing here, really? Don't feed me some line about needing me again or any more of that poet stuff. Why are you here?" I seethed. "What are you doing?" He looked like he was in pain. "Good. He deserved it. You could have told me you were seeing other people too. I broke up with my boyfriend for you." I think I threw up a little in my mouth when I called Mike my boyfriend, but I was trying to prove a point. "You said Mike wasn't your boyfriend, remember?" Now he was starting to look angry. "What do you mean I'm seeing other people? I don't know what you're talking about. Who's Chloe's father? Who's Chloe?" Edward asked, confused. He was standing directly in front of me now and had a defensive stance. He obviously had something to hide. I could tell by his body language. "Tanya's daughter." Confusion flashed across his face. "How do you know about Chloe? How do you know about Tanya for that matter? Have you been talking to Alice?" "I happened to meet Tanya while I was in Seattle," I said with a challenge in my voice. "And I remember her from Alice's wedding." "You remember? She was the girl whose tonsils you were trying to find with your tongue." "Wait, you're mad because I kissed her at Alice's wedding? 5 years ago." He started rubbing his forehead with his palm. "Tell me this, Edward, when was the last time you kissed her?" "At Alice's wedding. Be honest, Edward. I honestly don't understand what this is about. I'm sorry I kissed her at the wedding. I wanted to talk to you, but I got a little freaked out when you called me jailbait, and well, she was there." "Edward, I looked at your phone. I read your texts. I know you're with her." "No, I'm not." He raised his voice in exasperation. "I have no idea what you're talking about." Edward grabbed his phone off the coffee table and flipped it open. He read the text out loud. "I can't wait to try it out on you. It feels so right. Bella, She's talking about the hook to a song we've been working on. Tanya's stepmom is in the music business. She helped me get the contract with TRP. And I record my demos at her studio. Tanya mixes my arrangements. Well, what about the text before that? I said, swallowing hard. They missed me at a meeting with a new recording artist. He wanted to sample some of my songs. The text before that was right after I left. I didn't tell Tanya I was leaving, and we'd been recording for 3 weeks. Some of the songs were turning out really great. Oh, so you're not sleeping with Tanya? I asked sheepishly. No. And you're not Chloe's daddy? I closed my eyes wishing I could disappear. No. Sam is her father and he is also Tanya's husband. Then why does Alice hate her so much? I was completely confused. Alice doesn't even know her. He rolled his eyes. He was frustrated, but I must have looked so pathetic that he decided to have mercy on me. Edward's posture relaxed and he sat down beside me. Do you have any more questions? Actually, I made a checklist, and I've totally gone out of order. I buried my face in lap trying to hide some of my humiliation. You made a checklist of questions for me? Edward asked, still dumbstruck by the dumb girl sitting next to him. Yes. I know, it's just that this is all so crazy for me, and I don't know what's going on. And I just want to enjoy it, but there are things we should talk about, and evade and avoid has been my strategy for so long, and I want this to be different. I'm still just unclear about what this is. Bella, I don't understand what you mean. Can you please calm down and tell me what you're talking about? Let me get my list, I sighed. I got up and sulked over to my list. I grabbed it and a pen. It was time to get this over with. Hopefully, if this was just a little fling, then at least I would know, and I could try and make the best of it before it ended like someone who ends out they are going to die and goes and spends all their cash. I would have a shopping spree. Oh, Edward. Okay. Before we get started, I think we need to both agree to be honest with our answers. I mean, I'm the one with the list. But if you want to make your own, I can get you some paper. I think I'm good, and yes, I'll be honest. Good. Number 1. I think we need to talk about Alice, I said. Edwa. Rode was looking at me like I had sprouted a second head, but he took a deep breath like he was trying to stay calm, and said, what about Alice? She has amazing fashion sense. This is not the time for jokes, mister. I couldn't help but smile though. I'm just worried about what she would do if she knew about this. I might be totally wrong, but I don't think she would be thrilled. I agree with your assessment of the situation. But I've told you before, I don't care. Alice got to pick who she wanted to love, and we get to make our own choices about that as well. Interesting, I said and tried to hide the fact that I started screaming on the inside when he said the word love. I checked off number 1 and looked at Edward. He was calmer now. He almost looked like he was enjoying this. Well, number T. Woe would probably freak him out enough to put an end to that. Okay. Number 2 is, decide if this is going to become something serious enough to have to tell Alice about, or if this is just a torrid summer extending into fall affair and a secret we will take to our graves. I closed my eyes and braced myself for his reaction. I heard a huge sigh, and then felt Edward's arm on my back. Why are you even questioning that? I thought we already talked about it, he said gently. Well, I still just wanted some clarification. I glanced up at him, and now he looked sad. Great. He ran his hand through his hair nervously. Just how honest do you want me to be? Oh no. This was going to be bad, I could tell. Completely, I said with more confidence than I felt. Are you sure? Because it's going to make me sound like some sort of psycho. I nodded, and Edward took a deep breath. Don't you think it's too soon for us to be putting all our feelings out on the table? We've only technically been together for a few days, he stalled. We were together. Yes. No. I said nervously. Just say what you're thinking. You're acting like me. He looked down at the floor. I've had kind of a thing for you since I was 14. I nicknamed you Cleopatra, because Alice met you in Egypt, and I've written maybe hundreds of poems and songs with you in mind over the last 8 or so years. Well, that song I sold to Alanis was pretty much all about Jacob. But she wanted something angry. Wah, what are you saying? This was not at all what I'd been expecting to hear. I'm saying that I have been in love with this vision of you for as long as I can remember. When I met you at Alice's wedding, I got pissed off, because I thought I was some sort of a joke to you. When you came to visit this summer, you were nothing like what I imagined you to be. You weren't the goddess from my fantasies. You were clumsy and silly, and you caught me completely off guard. I fell for you, the real you, so hard I still don't know what hit me. My heart started pounding out my chest. And I worried I would fall into another one of those embarrassing crying spells. I stared at my hands, afraid to look at him. Am I scaring you? Edward asked. A little, I admitted. I'm just telling you this, because I don't want you to think I'm just here to escape Alice or for a vacation. I came to try and see if there was a chance that you could love me too. You're it for me. You're the one. I just hope I can find a way to be the one for you too. Well, this was certainly not the conversation I'd been expecting. I opened my mouth a few times trying to say something. But for the life of me, I couldn't come up with a thing. Please, just don't make a joke right now. I know you use humor when you're afraid to say how you really feel, but please, just tell me if there's a chance for us. Edward grabbed my hand and squeezed it so hard it almost hurt. I made myself look at him. I've never felt like this before. I don't know what I'm doing. I just don't see how. You could really feel like that about me. I have no trouble believing in my feelings for you though. They are real and completely overwhelm me. Thank God. Edward sighed in relief. I don't know what mad. You stop believing that you're beautiful and amazing, but I'm going to fix that. It hurts me that you don't see how wonderful you are. He rubbed his thumb across my cheek, and I felt so full of warm th and goodness that I thought I might explode. All this talking and vulnerability isn't easy for me either. I usually sing or write my feelings. Your little talking problem is contagious, I think, Edward sighed, lightening the mood. No, it's what I needed. I needed to hear you say it out loud. I closed my eyes and smiled in satisfaction. Now, give me that list. Edward snatched my notepad out of my hand before I could stop him. He took my pen and scratched off number 2. Decide how to tell Alice about us, he read aloud. That's going to be a tough one. I think we should just text her a picture of us kissing. He smirked. And I was grateful for the break in the intensity. I was in serious danger of fainting. I can just see her throwing herself on the floor in a tantrum, I replied. Really? I think she knows about my feelings for you. I've never talked to her about it, but I'm sure she can tell, Edward sighed. She's never mentioned it to me. The key will be making her believe this was all her idea. She needs to feel like it was her that got us together. If she gets credit, she'll be fine. I like the way you think, Lois. Edward leaned over and kissed me quickly, sending shivers all over my body. Let's hold off on telling Alice for a while. I kind of like doing something she has no say in, to be honest. I don't know. I tell her everything. I'm worried the longer we wait, the more potential there will be for her to be hurt. We'll tell her by the time I need to go home. Deal. I can live with that, I agreed. Edward turned his attention back to the list. Bella. He groaned. No, I am not Tanya's baby daddy, her husband. Or friend with benefits. I can't believe you sometimes. He chuckled, and I was really relieved that he found all of that funny. Most men would be running for the door by now. Just making sure. I shrugged. You want concert tickets? He laughed fully this time. Can I go with you to the concert? If you want. I laughed with him. I'll see what I can do, he said and checked it off the list. Follow up on torrid affairs / ongoing relationship. Edward read the last number on the list. He looked at me and had that smoldering thing going on in his eyes that made me start feeling all sweaty. Bella Swan. Will you have an ongoing relationship with me? He asked. Oh, Edward, I thought you'd never ask. I launched myself on top of him and attacked his face with my lips. After a few minutes of frolicking on the couch, I sat up and tried to catch my breath. I need to pee. Bella. Edward groaned. You don't really have to say everything out loud. It's fine with me if you want to keep some air of mystery about you. Sorry. I jumped and practically skipped to the bathroom. I was in love. I was sure of it now, and I was pretty sure that Edward was in love too. It was so silly how I worried all those years about things not working out. My life was absolutely perfect. I came out of the bathroom and found Edward talking on the phone. My phone. Sure. Vicky, we'll be there. Thank you for inviting us. He paused to listen. I look forward to meeting you too. Okay. Bye. What are you doing? I shrieked. If you get to mess with my phone, I thought it would be okay to answer yours, he challenged. But I was going to get out of that. Why? I want to meet your friends. You're sure? Please, oh please don't be sure. Why? Do you not want to go? Vicky seemed nice on the phone. Well, it's just that my boyfriend's really hot, and I think they might get jealous and try to steal him. It was worth a try. Boyfriend. I like the sound of that. Edward broke out with one of those smiles that made me tingle. Well, I want to show off my girlfriend. She's hot too. Really? You think she's hot? I must have looked like the Joker, my smile was so big. Yeah, except for when she talks about herself in the third person. It tends to worry me. Well, I'm sure she wouldn't want to worry you. I wish she would join me on this couch again. We were kind of in the middle of something. Edward winked at me. I'm sure she'd be happy too. I said and happily took care of bus ants. Down in flames. When I see you, I see safe. I see lovely. I see home. When I hear you, I hear the perfect lyric. I hear laughter. I hear tomorrow. When I taste you, I taste skin. I taste desire. I taste forever. When I touch you, I'm burned by the fire of my need for you. I'd been getting the poem I found this morning out at least every 3 minutes and reading it over and over. I spent the rest of my time reading every blog entry he'd written with the knowledge he was writing about me. I'm pretty sure I'd underestimated his writing talent until now. The man was clearly a prodigy. His words were so passionate, so deep, so sensual. Honestly, I didn't know what Edward was waiting for. Maybe he was nervous or wanted everything to be perfect. But I was more than willing to let him take advantage of me. I felt like I'd been the one trying to push us further, but he was holding back. The old Bella would have read he didn't want me, or that he was actually attracted to men, or that something else would intrude to make my complete happiness impossible. I was now officially a glass half full person though, and Edward was probably just trying to be romantic or respectful or something lame like that. Maybe tonight after Vicky's party he would respect my wishes and do what I wanted. I wanted him. I couldn't wait to see what sex would be like with someone like Edward. He was passionate and emotional, and well, hot. I was practically a virgin. Between the whole Embry debacle in college and Mike, I definitel. Why felt like I'd yet to experience what all the hype was about. Sex with Mike wasn't something I really enjoyed. It was more like something I tolerated, and I could have easily lived without it. My fry and Jen kept trying to convince me that with the right supplies, I could teach myself what all the hype was about, but that just seemed so desperate and possibly unsanitary. My desk phone rang. Bella Swan. I answered. What are you doing for lunch? His deep voice called to me from the other end of the phone. I was hoping to eat. What are you doing for lunch? I was hoping to meet you. Do you have time? I have the time. But by the time you get here, my lunch break will be long over. Traffic is probably bad right now. I decided to go to work today. I'm actually working outside your building right now, Edward Said. What do you mean? I peeked out the window but didn't see anything. I enjoy performing. I don't want you to think I'm some sort of bum. Edward had told me how much he got paid by the publisher per song. He was no bum. I just need a few minutes to finish some edits, and I can be right down. I'll be near the front door. Just follow the singing. We hung up, and I was excited getting to see him in the middle of the day. I had a strange fascination with the little dent in his chin, and I was going to have lunch with that dent. My dent. Sigh. I was just about to lock my computer screen. When my phone rang again. It must have been my dent calling to see if I was on my way yet. Bella Swan, I said in my sexiest phone voice. What exactly are you selling there, Bella? I was shocked to hear Alice's voice. We hadn't spoken in almost a week, and the last time we talked she just called to complain more about Edward. Why are you calling my work number? I asked in my regular voice. You didn't answer your phone. And I'm bored. Oh, I must not have turned the ringer on after my staff meeting. How are you? I suddenly felt very, very guilty. I told Alice everything. How could I possibly have a boyfriend and not tell her? It would hurt me if she did the same thing. I mean, if she told me she had a boyfriend, I would think she was the stupidest girl in the history of the world. Jasper was pretty much perfect. But she would never keep a secret like that from me. I'm okay. Edward hasn't called me back for days. I don't understand why he's still being so selfish. I rolled my eyes. Could she ever talk about anything else? He probably just needs some time. Maybe he's figuring things out, or maybe he's just on vacation. I offered, feeling slightly terrible about everything. Whatever. He only cares about himself. I might be betraying her, but she was really starting to piss me off. I didn't like her talking about Edward like that. Alice. He moved in with you to help you take care of Lucy. Why are you defending him so much? You're supposed to be on my side, Alice grumbled. I'm always on your side. I'm sorry. I desperately wanted to change the subject away from Edward. I broke up with Mike. What? You did? When? How? It's about time. Oh, I'm so glad. Now you can finally find your soulmate. I just know you will, Bella. You deserve to be happy more than anyone. I'm feeling more optimistic about that now. Too. I admitted. Perfect. This is just perfect. Oh. Lucy's crying. I'm going to call you later so we can make an action plan. Okay. I laughed, getting caught up in her enthusiasm. I forgot for a second that I was having a secret affair with her little brother behind her back. We said goodbye. I grabbed my purse to go meet Edward, and I pushed Alice out of my mind. Thankfully, I'd had to go to the courthouse that morning to cover a trial, and I was wearing my power suit. Lois Lane was in the house. I walked out of the front door of the building and heard Edward to my right. I turned and found him surrounded by a gaggle of women swaying to his music and molesting my dent with their eyes. I noticed a few women from accounting and even Irina, one of the copy editors. They'd better look but not touch, or else. I stood off to the side and listened to the music. Edward found me almost immediately, like he could sense I was there, and started singing the words straight to me. I felt the words and the music and the intent behind them. My heart rate sped up. I grew warm inside, and I got that tingly feeling all over my body. I was flushed and fanning myself by the time he finished. The song ended, and he announced it had been his last song. I heard a collective moan from the women in protest. Edward just smirked and started to put his guitar away as Hey grabbed money out of their wallets and showered it on him. My boyfriend was kind of a whore, selling himself to women on the street for money. I waited till the last of the audience dispersed before making my way to Edward. He snapped his guitar case shut, stood, and grabbed me around the waist, pulling me off the ground and kissing my neck. Lois, he growled into my ear, sending chills across my skin. Hello, Superhands, I laughed. We walked across the street to a little hole in the wall tie place and had to wait a few minutes while they cleared a table. We sat on a bench by the front door. And Edward rested his hand on my leg where the hem of my skirt hit my bare skin. I stared straight ahead. All I could think about was his hand touching my skin, and how I wanted him to touch more of me. I had the impulse to start pulling off my clothes right there. Edward was turning me into an animal. Thankfully, I snapped out of my horny haze when our table was ready. We sat down, and soon I found myself just staring at Edward. What in the world are you doing? He finally asked. Just enjoying the view, I sighed. I swear Edward blushed a little. I'm finding myself a little obsessed with you. I can't stop thinking about you. I miss you every second I'm away from you. I have EC plus BS doodled all over my post-it notes at work. This can't be healthy. That's what love is supposed to be like, Bella. It's perfectly normal. Edward smiled and his eyes looked even more alive than usual. I hope so. I've never really been normal, you know. Okay. Forget normal. It's right. We're right for each other. I sighed again and wondered how my life went from pathetic to perfect in such a short time. We ate our food, and I remembered I had other things to tell Edward. Oh, I forgot to tell you, Alice called. She's upset you haven't called her in a while. I know. Edward rubbed his forehead. I need to call her. I just don't have anything new to tell her. How many times can I say I don't know when I'm coming home? She just misses you. You should call her, I suggest, and Edward nodded his head in agreement. I have something else to tell you. I suddenly felt nervous. I wasn't sure exactly how Edward would feel about this news. What's the matter? Edward looked concerned. Oh, nothing bad. Well, your grandma gave me a lead on a couple of jobs, and I sent my resume out today. Both jobs would mean relocating. Edward looked down at his plate and took a deep breath. Where are you moving to? He asked slowly. I don't know yet, maybe nowhere. It's just that one of the jobs would be with the Tribune in Tacoma. Edward's head snapped up. You would move to Washington. A smile broke across his face. Would you want me to? I asked nervously. Shit. Yes. Edward sighed with a goofy grin on his face. I almost spit out my drink. Edward. Don't say that. Why not? He asked happily. Don't cuss. It's so crude. Say shart or shiz or something like that. Shiz. Really? Edward laughed and grabbed my hand. Silly. Bella. How is it that I'm the grown-up in this relationship? Of course I want you to move to Washington. I had never seen him look so happy and carefree. Don't get too excited. I don't have the job yet. Maybe you could look for other jobs in the area if it doesn't work out. I mean, I'll follow you anywhere if you'll let me, but I would love for us to live close to my family. Holy shiz, this was getting serious. I looked up at Edward in shock. Panic registered on his face. Too much too soon? He asked nervously. No, I don't think so. I beamed at him. I'm happy. Really happy. I'm a little surprised though. I kind of thought maybe you'd want to get away from your family. Sometimes I do, but I know I'd miss them more than not. They've been a source of frustration lately, but they're still my family. The way he described it brought back the familiar little ache of longing I always felt when Alice talked about her family. They had something special, something I'd never had. We enjoyed the rest of lunch. And as soon as it was time to tell each other goodbye, the sexual tension from earlier returned. Edward walked me to my building, stopped just outside the door, put his guitar on the ground, and wrapped his arms around me. He hugged me, rubbing my back, nuzzling my neck with his nose, and finally resting his hands on my hips and pulling back to look at me. Maybe we should stay in tonight, Lois, he said in a breathy voice. Of course he would want to skip the party now. I grabbed his shoulders trying to hang on and not lose my footing. They'd never let me hear the end of it, ISQU. Eked, unable to make my voice work right. Promise we'll leave early then, he whispered in my ear. I'll fake food poisoning, I promised, and kissed him quickly, not wanting to cause too much of a scene in front of my building. It was too late. When he let me go, I saw Mike swinging the door open hard with a disgusted look on his face. Oh, no, I groaned and buried my head into Edward's shoulder. What's wrong? Nothing. I'm just a terrible person. I better go. Okay, I'll see you in a few hours. He looked at me confused and released me. I followed Mike into the building and found him waiting at the elevator. It opened just as I reached him and we both got on. Mike, I'm so sorry. I know you must hate me right now, I said. Mike didn't say a word. He just looked straight ahead, angrily. Mike, please. It just happened. I didn't mean. Mike looked up at the digital display on the elevator, punched the next button so it would stop at the next floor, and got off the elevator without a word. I felt like I'd just been punched. Actually, that might have felt better. By the time I got home, I only had half an hour to change and get ready before we were supposed to be at Vicky's. I quickly threw on more casual clothes and yelled to Edward that we needed to leave. He was waiting in the living room, reading a book. When he stood up, I took in his appearance. He had on his black jeans and an old Bob Dylan t-shirt. Of course he would have cool band shirts. He looked good, but it didn't make him look any older. Unfortunately, I doubted he'd brought any sweater vests with him. I was nervous about what my friends would think when they met Edward. The people he was meeting tonight weren't even my real friends. They were Vicky's friends and my coworkers. Most of them were alright, but I was worried. They would think I'd gone crazy or disapprove of Edward's age. What? He asked. I didn't say anything. I know, but you're looking at me like you want to. I considered asking him to wear that shirt he ironed the other day. But I didn't want to offend him. I knew it was my issue and that it wasn't exactly based on rational though. It's nothing. Are you ready? I asked. Yes. Do we need to stop and get anything? Wine. Flowers. Pie. He seemed a little nervous. It was cute. No. Vicky will have it all covered. She's a pro at this, I answered. Are you nervous? No. I just want your friends to like me. Do you think I could play my guitar? I'm more confident when I'm hiding behind my guitar, Edward grinned. That might be a little weird if you just sang everything you wanted to say. Like if someone introduces themselves and you sing your name back. You should totally do that next time. I laughed. Everyone will love you. Don't worry. They'll just be so excited you're not Mike and they don't have to listen to any of his theories on time travel. Oh, I have my theories, but I'll keep those to myself tonight, promise. As soon as we climbed into Edward's truck, I found myself scooting closer to him. He rested his hand on my thigh again. And the same heat from earlier coursed through my body. I forgot all about my friends and my worries about them accepting Edward. All I could think about was how much I wanted that hand all over me. How I longed for the rush of his skin against mine. How I wanted to find out if he was ticklish. The radio was playing, and a new song came on. Something about it seemed familiar. But I'd never heard it before. I listened more closely. It couldn't be Edward. Yes, dear. I giggled at the title. Did you write this song? He took his hand off my leg and gripped the steering wheel tightly. His mouth formed a hard line, and he did not look happy. I guessed I must have insulted him. How did you know? He asked flatly. Oh, wait, why didn't he look happy? I didn't. I don't know. It seemed familiar to me. It felt like you. Are you serious? You really didn't know. You just guessed. I nodded my head. That's weird. He looked at me, confused. I thought you were teasing me about it or something. I guess I'm sensitive about that stuff. Yeah, that was an understatement. No, I just wanted to know. That is weird. I can't explain it. I could just tell. Look, I have goosebumps. I held up my arm to show him. Wow. Edward grabbed my hand and kissed it. Wow. I agreed, leaned the side of my head against the seat and stared at him. What do you think that means? I don't know. Maybe you know me or my writing well. Could be, or maybe we have some cosmic connection written in the stars since before the beginning of time and we were fated to find each other, and if we didn't, a meteor would hit Earth next week, and we just managed to save the planet. Where did that come from? Edward laughed. I have no idea. I shrugged and tapped my head with my index finger. I'm full of brilliant ideas. Well, I think you might be right about fated to find each other, but possibly wrong about the meteor. We both smiled at each other like a couple of people in love, because that's what we were. I didn't have enough time to process just how crazy that little song incident was because we arrived at Vicky's house. We walked up to the door hand in hand, and I rang the bell. Vic. Wise husband Riley opened the door with a huge smile on his face. Bella and the guest of honor. Welcome. He moved so we could walk inside. This is Edward, I introduced him. Edward, this is Riley, Vicky's husband. Pleasure. Edward sawed and shook Riley's hand. That wasn't so bad. 1 down, 5 to go. Vicky came traipsing into the entryway. Bella. I'm so glad you could make it. And who is this young man? She asked, turning to Edward. The word young hit E like a slap in the face, but I tried to ignore it. She probably didn't mean anything by it. The man is my I didn't dare say friend's brother, boyfriend, Edward. I glanced up and could see the look of pride flash across Edward's face. I was so getting lucky tonight. Nice to meet you, Edward. I've never seen Bella as happy as she's been this week. Vicky shook his hand. I was sure my face turned bright red. It's been the same for me, Edward said, causing me to blush even more. He wrapped an arm around my waist as we followed Vicky to the living room. Everybody. This is Bella's boyfriend, Edward, Vicky announced. Bella, I'll let you introduce him to everyone. I made my way around the room with Edward introducing him to the couples. This is Angela and her husband, Ben. They graciously shook Edward's hand. What do you do? Ben asked politely. Oh, he's a songwriter, I answered for Edward. Really? You can make a living doing that? Angela asked innocently enough. But I kind of took offense to it. What did she think? He was some sort of bum. Oh, he does very well, thank you. What did you think? I was some sort of sugar mama. Really? That was so 2004 for us. Crap, I was talking again. I looked up at Edward hoping he would think it was funny, but he wasn't laughing. Yes, I do all right, Edward said to Angela. It's a hard field to break into though. I can imagine. Angela agreed. We moved to the couch where Peter and Charlotte were sitting. Charlotte annoyed me. She had a big mouth, stepped on people to get ahead, and made rude comments all the time that she covered up by acting like she was joking. I didn't consider her a friend, just someone I had to tolerate. This is my friend Charlotte and her boyfriend Peter. Peter nodded, and Charlotte said, "Rawr, Bella. I never knew you were such a cougar." I froze. This was my worst nightmare come true. I was hoping our age difference wasn't painfully obvious, but it obviously was. Char, she's too young to be a cougar. Peter corrected her. Thank you, Peter. She's more of a puma. There's a difference, you know. This was not going like I planned. I looked over at Edward, and he had a polite smile on his face. But I was sure he was annoyed too. Well, younger men are so much more energetic, if you know what I mean, I said flatly and rolled my eyes. Peter and Charlotte burst out laughing. But Edward just tightened his grip on my waist. He wasn't laughing at all. Oops. We moved on. Edward, this is Garrett, he works at the paper, and his girlfriend Kate. She's younger than he is too. But I guess no one thinks twice about it if a man dates a younger woman. Such a double standard. Nice to meet you. Kate said uncomfortably. Garrett reached out to shake Edward's hand, and gave me a look that said, "Shut up. You idiot." I was getting frustrated with myself and with the world for making my life complicated. Stupid Charlotte. I hated her. When the introductions were finished, we all sat down to dinner. Conversation flowed easily, and I was finally able to relax. Edward seemed to relax too and interacted easily with my friends. They acted impressed when I told them about his songs on the radio. And Edward was interested in Ben's work as an English professor. I loved that my boyfriend was so smart. He kept a hand on me possessively all night. He was either touching my leg, holding my hand, or had an arm draped across my chair. I was pretty sure all the girls were jealous. Take that, Char. After dinner, Vicky suggested that we play a game. She got out Taboo, and I saw a fierce determination in Edward's eyes. I remembered back to win, lose, or draw, and I was scared. Edward didn't take defeat easily. We've got this, Swan, he whispered in my ear, sending sparks through my body. We started playing the game, and despite my fantasies that Edward and I would be able to read each other's minds, we had a bit of trouble communicating. I thought it was perfectly clear that when I said, "a thing you suck on till you get to the good stuff," that I meant a lollipop. It wasn't my fault his mind went straight to the gutter. And really, when he said, "something that brightens your house or your day," was it my fault? All I could think of were daisies. No, that was his fault. He had no right to be frustrated. Wow, Edward, you're so competitive. Kate teased, and Edward stuck his tongue out at her playfully. There, baby, It's past your bedtime, isn't it? I patted Edward on the knee. He didn't laugh, he just rolled his eyes. We finished the game, and of course Team Cullen Swan came in dead last. Edward seemed a little grumpy about it, so I put my hand on his thigh, leaned over, and whispered in his ear, "I'll make it up to you when we get back to my house." This time Edward started choking. And I laughed and patted him on the back. "You're insane." He rolled his eyes at me when he stopped coughing. Vicky and Angela started clearing the dirty wine glasses off the table, while Riley put the game away. I grabbed a couple of glasses and followed them into the kitchen. "Bella, that boy is absolutely delish." Vicky gushed when I got there. "He's really sweet, Bella," Angela agreed. "I know, I'm so happy. I hadn't noticed Char had accompanied us." "Bella, you're a smart little puma. If I wasn't with Peter the First would totally tap that. Hell, if Edward wasn't with you, I'd probably tap that anyway." I'm not sure you've got your biology right. I don't think you can technically tap anything," I said, disgusted with her talking about Edward like that. She wasn't going to get her tappers anywhere near him. "Whatever. Come on. Tell us, how did you land this one?" "He's certainly a step or 20 up from Mike," Charlotte asked. "I don't know how to explain it. I've known him for years. And it just grew into something more." I really didn't want to talk about this with her. "Well, do whatever you can to keep him. Have you considered any enhancements? I can give you the number to my Botox lady," Charlotte offered. "Char," Angela gasped. "No thanks," I shrugged. "He's young. I can train him to stick around." "That's the beauty of it, really," I said sarcastically as I plotted all the ways I wanted to kill her. I looked up to find Edward leaning against the doorframe. He didn't look happy at all. "Are you ready?" he asked. "Sure," I answered, anxious to get away from Charlotte. I couldn't believe how quickly she'd reduced me to feeling unworthy of Edward. It wasn't as if I wasn't insecure enough on my own. I really didn't need her help. I wanted to cry, but I held it in. I wouldn't let her see that she affected me. Edward and I thanked Vicky and Riley for the lovely evening. Ben and Edward discussed plans to meet for lunch one day and for us to go on a double date on Saturday night. We walked to Edward's truck. And I noticed his hand was suspiciously absent from my hand or my waist. He held the door for me, and I climbed into the truck. I scooted closer to the middle, expecting his hand to take mine or to rest on my thigh again, but I got nothing. Great. Charlotte was right. He probably took one look at Kate, who was closer to his age, and realized that I was just gross. He probably wanted to get back to Seattle as quickly as his truck would take him. I scooted over and stared out the window. We were silent for most of the car ride, until Edward finally said, "I don't know why you do that." "I hate it that you do that." "Do what?" I asked, confused. "You turn me into some sort of a joke. You do it all the time with Alice, and you did it tonight over and over again." "What? What are you talking about?" "Oh, it's past his bedtime. He's young, so I can train him," he mocked me. "Are you kidding? Those were jokes." "Sheesh. I didn't know you were so sensitive." He was being ridiculous. I knew he was irritated by them, but this reaction was over the top. "I don't want to be a joke to you, Bella. I'm tired of being the butt of your jokes. You're not a joke to me." I started to raise my voice. "I don't know why you're being so pissy over nothing. I don't know why you treat me like a child." He practically yelled. "I'm sorry if I'm not pretty enough or young enough for you." Edward just looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "Why would you even say that?" he asked with disgust on his face. "You're everything to me." He pulled his truck into my driveway and stopped. "Obviously. You think I think of you as a joke. When in reality, I'm the joke. I'm stupid to think I'm good enough for you, and that you would actually want me. Do you think it's easy trying to be good enough for Mr. Perfect? I mean, thank God you dress like a sloppy teenager. At least there's something you're not perfect at. Now you don't like how I dress." Edward snarled. "I didn't say that." I yelled and got out of the truck, slamming the door behind me. I stomped up the steps, unlocked the door, and went straight to my room. So much for getting lucky tonight. I heard Edward come in a few minutes later, and I prayed he would come to my door and talk to me. I waited for a long time, and when he didn't come, I started to cry. It wasn't the sobbing kind of cry, just silent tears trickling down my face. I hoped I hadn't really screwed things up beyond repair. I didn't know what I would do if I lost him now. My life would be over. I would never recover. I was sure of it. It had only been a handful of days. But those days had changed everything. I saw the hallway light go off and heard the door to the spare room close. Part of me thought I should go to him and apologize, but what if he couldn't forgive me? I just hoped he was still here when I got up in the morning. I'd almost drifted off to sleep when I heard my door open. I kept my eyes shut, pretending not to be awake. I felt my bed shift, and then Edward moving to lay behind me. He wrapped an arm around my stomach and nestled his face into my hair, breathing me in. I moved my hand over his and squeezed it. I love you, Bella, he whispered. I love you too. I whispered back and knew everything would be fine. In flagranti. I woke up early. I hadn't slept long, but it felt like the best sleep of my life. I stayed in Edward's arms feeling perfectly secure and content. Whatever happened the night before, I realized was just growing pains. We were bound to have misunderstandings and frustrations, but they didn't have to be deal breakers. We didn't find each other in the most traditional way. There were challenges associated with our situation, but we made it through this one. We would make it through the next one. The fact that Edward came back to me and told me he loved me meant more than any apology or explanation. Obviously, there were things I needed to say too. Things I needed to apologize for. I let my fear of what other people would think affect the way I treated Edward, and that was wrong. In the end, the only thing that mattered was how much we loved each other. I was proud of myself for being able to believe that now. I should have new business cards made. Bella Swan, relationship expert. Edward was still sleeping behind me. I turned under his arm so that I was facing him and watched as he breathed in and out. I ran my fingers across his cheek, down his neck, and over his chest. He opened one eye and looked at me. Hi, I whispered. Hi, he whispered back and closed his eye again. He might be used to sleeping till the afternoon. But I didn't want him to go back to sleep. I scooted closer to him, until I could reach his face with my mouth. I ghosted kisses on both of his eyes, his nose, his lips, his chin, his neck, and moved down to kiss his chest. I felt his sharp intake of breath and glanced up to find his eyes wide open. I kept kissing his chest but looked up at him, meeting his eyes. What I saw there scared me and thrilled me at the same time. I understood it, because I felt it too, desire. Edward put his fingers under my chin, pulling my face back up to his mouth, and as our lips met, he rolled us over so that I was on my back. And he was on top of me. His kisses became more desperate, more passionate, and almost subconsciously I started sighing and moaning in response to what he was doing to me. Much like I had done. He started moving his lips across my face to my chin, to my ear lobe, then down my neck to my collarbone. He rose up on his forearms and kept kissing me everywhere. Finally he stopped and looked me in the eyes. And I could feel the fire of the passion in his gaze threatening to consume me. I'll love you forever, he promised. I couldn't speak. I just nodded my head in agreement. And tugged at the bottom of my shirt, pulling it off of me, and the rest of our clothes soon followed. The way Edward took in every inch of me with his eyes and the touch of his hands all over my bow. Left me breathless and aching with longing. The rush of his skin over mine ignited a flame in me that nothing could extinguish, and the feeling of our bodies entwined made me whole. As he moved inside of me, I finally understood what it meant to be desired. I was Cleopatra. No, I was his Cleopatra. The woman he yearned for above all others. He was consumed by his need for me. Every word he wrote, in every poem that had moved me was written because I had moved him. I felt powerful, beautiful, and alive. I knew in that moment that I was created, put on this earth to love this man. It was my purpose, my calling, my reason. We'd connected physically, but it was more than that. We communicated something deeper to each other without using words. An understanding had been reached, a commitment of sorts. He would love me forever. And I would only ever love him. It was the kind of love that you read about, but few ever experienced. The love that consumed you body and soul until you forgot everything you knew before. It couldn't be replicated or replaced. Without Edward, I could never be whole again. I love you so much more than I know how to put into words, and I'm supposed to be an expert with words. Edward sighed while tracing lazy circles on my arm. We'd come up for air, but the intensity of the morning still hung heavy in the room. I know, I smiled at him. Me too. Then I yawned. You're tired, he chuckled. I'm sorry. I'm not tired of you. I'm just, well, that was quite a workout. I'm going to be sore later. Was it worth it? I was surprised that he seemed so serious. Oh my gosh, Edward, it was. I thank you. I don't know how to explain it. I've never felt or experienced or dreamed of anything like this before. I finally understood what all the hype was about, and I didn't even need to shop with Jen for any supplies first. I've dreamed about being here with you, like this, for so long, he said. It's hard to believe it's really happening. He stared at me and ran his hand across my cheek gently. I yawned again involuntarily, taking away from the perfect moment. Why don't you take a nap? I need to get some music down on paper. I'm feeling inspired. He leaned in and kissed me gently. Okay. Promise you'll play it for me later? I asked sleepily. Of course. I closed my eyes after I watched him climb out of bed. I was sure that sight would never get old. I had a peaceful smile on my face as I drifted off to sleep. A few hours later, I lingered somewhere between asleep and awake. I was still tired, so very tired, but I could hear Edward strumming on his guitar, and the sound of his voice was luring me away from the bed. I wanted him to look at me while he sang. I loved it when he looked at me while he sang. I climbed out of bed wrapping the sheet around me. I was too lazy to look for my clothes. And I was still in a sleepy haze when I walked into the living room. Edward looked at me with a lazy sort of smile, running his eyes up the length of my body. I stood a little taller. It was kind of exciting being so alluring. I slumped down in the chair across from him and laid my head on the armrest, pulling my feet up under me and listened. His voice soothed me until I was on the verge of falling asleep again, but my phone on the table next to me started ringing. I reached for it without opening my eyes and fumbled as I tried to flip it open. It went falling to the floor. Edward kept playing and singing as I reached down for it. Hello. There was silence on the other end. I'd missed the caller ID when I dropped it, so I wasn't even sure who it was. Probably someone selling something. Hello. I said a little louder this time. Edward stopped playing and looked at me to see what was going on. Why is my brother with you? Alice asked without a hint of friendliness in her voice. No, 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 Alice. Oh my gosh, Alice. Hey. That's a good question. I searched my mind desperately for an explanation that might save me, but I came up with nothing. Bella, you tell me what's going on right now, she demanded. Edward came to see me. I looked up at him, and he had a shocked expression on his face. He put the guitar down and leaned forward. Why? Alice still sounded on the edge of fury. Wow. That's another good question. Well, I guess he is sort of interested in me. Edward rolled his eyes and held out his hand wanting the phone. I shook my head no at him. Like he wants to be a reporter. Alice asked in confusion. No. Crap. I didn't know the right thing to say. Romantically. Is this a joke? You're joking, right? Alice practically yelled. No. I'm not joking, Alice. I tried to sound serious and calm. There was a long pause. I started to wonder if she'd hung up or fainted. How long has he been there? She finally asked. At least she wasn't yelling. Crap. I handed Edward the phone like we were playing a game of hot potato. His eyes grew wide, and he didn't look so confident all of a sudden. He slowly held it up to his ear. Alice, I've been meaning to call you back. I just wasn't sure how to tell you what's been happening. Edward sighed calmly into the phone. Bella and I are together now. I could hear Alice screaming on the other side of the phone. Clearly she'd lost any sense of control she had been maintaining with me. Alice, stop, Edward Said forcefully. I know Bella is your best friend, but I love her, and I'm going to be with her. This is a good thing. And you are going to accept it. Yeah, Alice was going to have to accept it. I had no idea where he got the courage to stand up to her like that, but it was hot. Alice started yelling again, and Edward was growing agitated. He stood up and walked out the front door with the phone, leaving me sitting there wondering what in the world was going on. I fiddled with my hand. Knew Alice would be mad. We should have told her first thing. I should have called her the second he walked in my door and asked for her blessing. No, I should have called her and thanked her for sending him here. And then I should have sent her flowers or one of those edible bouquets. I should have promised to name my firstborn child Alice, and thanked her for providing me with the opportunity to know Edward. The last thing I should have done was hide this from her. I was about to get up and start pacing when Edward came back in the house. What happened? I asked. Well, it was a little worse than I expected, but I think she'll be fine. What does that mean? What did she say? Does she hate me? No, I don't think she hates you. I think she's just hurt that we left her out of the loop. I knew she would be. I buried my face in my hands. Edward came and sat on the ottoman in front of me, and pulled my hands into his. Hey, I asked her if she wanted you to be happy, and she said yes. That's the key here. Alice wants you to be happy. Once she understands how good this is for both of us, she won't be able to stay mad. I just feel like I betrayed her. You know it's supposed to be bros before hoes. Oh, I mean sisters before misters. And I knew this would upset her, but I did you anyway. I felt Edward chuckling. Why is that funny? I demanded. You just said you did me anyway. Oh no. You didn't tell Alice about that, did you? Bella. That's none of her business, Edward Said calmly. I promise everything is going to be fine. We'll give her a couple of hours to whine to Jasper, and then you'll call her. Just tell her how sorry you are and what a great dresser she is, and she'll forgive you. Come on, Edward, you act like she's completely shallow. She has a right to be upset. We hurt her. I felt a pain building inside of me. How could I do this to my best friend? Stop it. Look at me. Edward lifted my chin to meet my gaze. You're right. We'll find a way to fix it, but we can't let this ruin our happiness. We deserve this, Bella. She's going to understand that. I guess it's good we got it over with, I sighed. I felt terrible for not telling her, but I didn't want her to find out like this. I moved to rest my head on Edward's chest, and he stroked my hair lovingly. Part of me was upset and worried about my best friend, but in reality that part of me was really pretty small. Most of me was still just thrilled about Superhands sitting next to me. Bella, I've been having a problem, Edward Said, and took his hand away from me. I sat up, and Edward stared at the floor and looked kind of sad. What? I started to panic. I couldn't imagine what he was going to say. There's this spot on my back. He turned so I could see his back while he pointed to the middle of it. I don't see anything, I said, looking closer. No, it's not like that. My problem is I just can't quite reach it with a washcloth, and I'm worried it might be dirty. I need to shower, but I'm afraid of failing again. Is there anything you can do? He gave me a puppy dog face. Holy guacamole. Was he asking what I thought he was asking? I have one of those brushes with a long handle, I answered with a sly smile on my face. Edward rolled his eyes. Or I guess I could help you with it. I let out an exaggerated sigh like it was a huge hassle. I wouldn't want you to grow a fungus or anything. Thank you for being so concerned about my hygiene. Edward stood, pulled me up with him, and kissed me. Thankfully I was able to help Edward with his problem as we took a break from worrying about Alice. Just because my best friend hate me didn't mean I could stop worrying about things like fungus or dirty backs. I had to have priorities. Later that afternoon, after I made sure Edward was good and clean, I called Alice. I got her voicemail. Alice, I'm so sorry. You have to forgive me. You just have to. You're a really good dresser, and I need some shopping advice. What was I doing? Oh, that's right. I was using Edward's shallow Alice approach. It wasn't really a great idea, but I had no idea what to say. I tried again later and it went straight to voicemail. Alice, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. I mean all those years. It's not like I was planning how I could really seduce him. It's just when I visited and got to know him, he was really interesting, and well, he's very attractive, but still I didn't think he would be interested in me, but he was. And so really this is all his fault. I couldn't help it. You Cullens are so persuasive, and pretty. You're pretty, Alice. I did it again. I hung up and sighed. Edward was looking at me funny. What? All my fault. Duh. I rolled my eyes, and Edward just chuckled. I called Alice a few more times with no luck and was reduced to singing songs on her voicemail. If I couldn't make her forgive me, I was determined to annoy her to death. Finally my phone rang, and I jumped up and grabbed it excitedly. When I looked at the caller ID though, it was Jasper. Jasper. I answered. Hello, Swan. I hear you and Edward are practically living together. Do you hate me? I asked nervously. No, I'm glad. I thought I sensed something between the two of you when you visited. But I didn't want to stir the pot by asking in case I was wrong. How's Alice? I asked. She is upset. She says Edward is too young for you and all that, but I think most of all she's upset that you didn't tell her. Honestly, I think she's jealous that Edward gets to hang out with you, and she doesn't. But Alice is the most important person in my life. I need her to be okay with this. I think she just needs a little more time. And maybe a little less showtunes. Oh, she didn't like that? I asked. I'm not sure, but she played them on speakerphone, and I'd personally appreciate it if you didn't sing anymore, Jasper chuckled. Jerk. I teased. Really? Swan, I'm thrilled. You deserve someone like Edward, and he obviously cares a great deal about you. Don't give that up for Alice. She'll be fine. I also wanted to give you and Edward a heads up. Alice, well, she doesn't always think rationally when she's upset. She sort of called a family meeting for tonight to discuss Edward, and what he's been up to. I think she's planning to tell Mom and Dad, and well, everyone about the two of you. Oh freck. That's bad. I'll try and keep it positive, but I thought I should warn you. Thanks, Jasper. Please tell Alice to call me or let me know when it's safe to call her. I will. Just don't tell Alice I'm giving you inside information. This is all covert. In fact, I better make sure no one is following me right now. Okay. Thanks for the heads up. I'll talk to Edward about it. Swan, I really am happy for you. Thanks, Jasper. That means a lot to me. Goodbye, old friend. Not a good time to call me old. I groaned. Jasper laughed. And we hung up. Edward. I was in the living room, and he was in the kitchen making a sandwich. Yes, dear, he said as he walked back into the room, and I giggled again at his words. I was feeling slightly better after talking to Jasper. Jasper just called. Do you want the good news or the bad news first? Good news. Jasper is happy for us. He said you are one lucky man, and that you should do whatever I want. Okay. That is good news. What do you want to do? He winked at me seductively. I swear he had a one-track mind. Stop it. I giggled. What's the bad news? Alice is calling a family meeting. She's going to tell your parents about us, I told him. Edward rubbed his forehead in frustration. I figured she would. I just hoped maybe she would be mature for once. I'd better call them before she gets a chance. It will be better coming from me. What if they don't like me? I asked nervously. They already love you. They love me as Alice's friend, not your everything. Edward finished for me. The man had a way with words. I had to give him that much. What will you do if they forbid you to see me? Bella. I'm not 12. But I'm 29. It's a little weird. Jasper said Alice was creeped out by our age difference. If this is going to work, that is something you are going to have to let go, Bella. Edward sat beside me on the couch. I don't Ain't the age difference is even that great, and it is really not even a factor to me. If you can't get past it though, it's going to be a problem. I don't care what anyone else thinks but you. To try not care what other people think. It's just hard for me. I'm a people pleaser. I also don't get why you would want me, when you could have anyone. Do you want me to list all the reasons? Edward asked sarcastically. Yes. Edward rolled his eyes, and said, come here. He took my face in his hands and kissed me, caressing my lips with his, and making my organs turn to jello. Don't you feel it? That's why I want you. I belong with you. I don't care how old you are or how you talk too much when you're nervous. I want you. So was that the list, because it was kind of short. I thought you might mention my intelligence or interior decorating skills, I teased. Edward laughed and pulled me into a hug. We'll get through this. We just have to stick together. I rested my head on his chest. You'd better go call your mom, I sighed. Edward ran his hand over my hair a couple of times and kissed my head. He stood up, pulled his own phone out of his pocket and went outside. A feeling of dread enveloped me. I was putting something dear to me on the line, the Cullen family. If this ended badly, I could lose everything. If Edward and I didn't work out, the entire family might end up hating me. They might all hate me even if it did work out. They might look at me as some sort of opportunist taking advantage of their vulnerable and sensitive Edward. It was a good thing they didn't know how successful he was becoming with his writing. Or they might even think I was after his money. Edward came back in with a frown on his face. Oh no. He slammed his body down on the couch next to me and sighed. I knew it. She hates me, doesn't she? No. But I'm not so sure how she feels about me right now. I rubbed his back trying to comfort him. What is it? What did she say? Well, first I told her I had feelings for you, and she was really excited. She said she couldn't imagine anyone better suited for me. Well, that's good. I was confused. I thought he wanted her to like me. Then I told her I was here and that I've been seeing you. And that we're in love. And I asked impatiently. Well, she wasn't so happy about that. She said that it was irresponsible of me to quit my job at the coffee shop and come down here to shack up with you. And that if I am going to try and have a serious relationship, I need to get serious about my future. You know, the same old thing. I need to go to college. I need to grow up. I need to blah blah blah. Then she said she was concerned about you encouraging this behavior. Oh God, she probably thinks you're like my boy toy or something. I shrieked and buried my face in his shoulder. Well, it's not true. I'm not a kept man. I've done work every day since I left Washington. You've got to tell them about your music, Edward. I squeezed his arm. What if they still don't think it's enough? You care what everyone thinks. I only care what a few people in the world think, and most of them think I'm a loser. Edward. That's not true. Your songs are amazing. I'm sure they are just worried you don't have anything you're passionate about, and they think you're unhappy. You have to give them a chance. Even if they aren't crazy about it, which they will be, then it's not like they will stop loving you or inviting you to Christmas. They're your family, I guess. He still looked so defeated, and I wanted desperately to fix it. I wanted to call Esme myself and tell her how amazing her son was. And send her copies of his music, and show her that he was successful in business. I was sure she would be proud of him. How could she not be? Do you care what I think? I asked, forcing him to look at me. You know I do. More than anyone. His eyes burned into mine. I think you are an amazingly talented artist and musician. I kissed his chin. I think you are a good man, and you care deeply for your family, which I admire. I kissed his neck. I think you're very skilled in most everything you do, I whispered in ear, and we forgot all about his family for the time being. Burned. Edward and I spent the next 2 weeks getting to know each other. We learned how to be more considerate of each other's feelings. I knew that my not taking him seriously frustrated him, and he learned that I used humor to deflect when I felt awkward or uncomfortable. We were a good balance for each other. He was introverted and deep. I was outgoing and had trouble with big words, but somehow we worked. Our attraction was more than physical. We became close friends. I found that in those quiet moments as I lay in his arms, I felt safe enough to tell him the things I had trouble sharing with anyone. Lee. K. How much it hurt me that my mom sent me to live with my dad my senior year in high school, and how I was jealous of Alice's life. Edward told me more about the record deal he was offered when he was 19. Some family friend from New York had introduced him to producer, but his parents looked over the contract and thought it was shady. Edward said he understands now that it would have been the biggest mistake of his life. Hearing all this as an outsider made me wonder if this was one of those instances where Edward overreacted and made assumptions about his parents' criticism. He didn't even seem to have considered the fact that they might have been worried about the contract instead of unsupportive of his talent. It was a good thing one of us was completely rational. I was also getting Ed to Edward's sultry looks and words of appreciation for my body. For years I'd thought my life was some sort of dud, a disappointment. Now I could see that the hard times were just the prologue to this. It was all just the beginning of a story with a happy ending. There were other things I hadn't gotten used to. Living by myself for the last 5 or so years, I was accustomed to having things the way I wanted them. One of the more difficult moments was what I coined Boxergate. I let out a grunt as I slammed the kitchen cabinets shut. Was it really that hard to open the cabinet, get out a glass, and then shut it again afterward? I swear Edward thought he could get away with whatever he wanted just because I couldn't resist him. I stomped into the living room, ignoring him, and headed for my bedroom. There I found Edward's dirty underwear on the floor. Again. I'd had it. Something had to be done. Edward. I stormed into the living room holding up his laundry. Is this really necessary? There is such a thing as a hamper. Why are you talking with your back to me? Edward asked with amusement in his voice. Because if I look at you, you'll give me that look, and I won't be able to stay mad. What look? Edward laughed. Will you please pay attention? We are talking about your underwear. Personally, I'd rather talk about your underwear, Edward chuckled. I mean it. I am not your maid. And if I fall into the toilet one more time because you left the toilet seat up, I'm going to glue it down. You fell in the toilet. He was really laughing now. You need to stop. I turned around to glare at him. Edward stopped laughing immediately and looked a little scared. That was better. Bella. What? I snapped. You're cute when you're mad. Edward grinned at me, and I almost broke. Almost. But I was not about to let him win this time. I stormed out of the room and slammed my door. I went on a dusting frenzy in my bedroom. I might not be able to get Edward to pick up his clothes, but I could get this dust the heck out of my room. I heard the door creak open a minute later. I was picking up the things on my dresser and slamming them down on the other side so I could dust under them when I felt Edward's arms wrap around me from behind. He started kissing my neck. I'm sorry, Lois, he whispered in my ear. I'll do better at picking up after myself. I let out an exaggerated sigh. Do you forgive me? No. I think this side needs some attention first. I tilted my head the other way so he could reach the other side of my neck. All was forgiven as soon as I got the attention I needed. That was how we dealt with most of our disagreements. Instead of talking, we would just make out. It wasn't like I was complaining. Edward's tongue was better than any apology. Approximately 8 tilde. I was lying on the couch with my head on Edward's lap, pretending to read but thinking about the fact that Edward had to leave tomorrow. He was playing with my hair with one hand and holding a book with the other. He'd stayed as many days as he could. But he would be leaving in the morning and driving all day and night in order to be back to Seattle in time for his meeting with the people from TRP. He'd sent his songs to Tanya. And she was ready to record them as soon as he got there. The songs were good. Even if I wasn't biased, I would think they were exceptional. I had a particular fondness for the one called Fire of Phoenix. It was all about a girl who was irresistible. What are you thinking about? Edward put down the book and looked at me. I don't want you to leave, I whined. I don't want things to change. I want my snuggle buddy. It's temporary. Bella. You'll be out in less than 2 weeks for your interview, and hopefully after that I'll be flying up here and driving the U-Haul back for you. I hope I find out right away, so I know whether or not I have to go to that other interview in New York after that. 2 trips in 2 weeks is a lot of traveling, and Washington is definitely my first choice anyway. Let's not even think about New York yet. Edward picked up my hand and kissed it. I'm going to miss you, but you'll be there before you know it. I wish I had my own place so we didn't have to stay in a hotel. Are you sure it's a good idea not to tell Alice I'm coming? I think if she finds out, it will make everything worse. You'll only be there for 3 days. I don't want to share you. Plus, you can't very well tell her when she refuses to talk to you. I guess. I shrugged. I just hope she gives up on the silent treatment soon. I'd been calling Alice every few days, but I was still getting her voicemail. I'd spoken with Jasper a couple of times, and it sounded like Edward and I had successfully created a giant rift in his family. Carlisle and Emmett were 100% supportive of Edward and my relationship. Emmett and Alice had been arguing about it nonstop. Esme still thought Edward was going about it the wrong way but wasn't completely against it. Rosalie wanted to stay out of it. She and Alice were close. And I suspected she would be loyal to her no matter what. Alice and Jacob were both furious and had bonded over the way they had been mutually scorned by Edward and me. Jasper was happy for us. But he was careful with what he said to Alice. We all understood that disagreeing with her meant trouble, but he said he was working to help her see the light. In some ways I understood Alice's reaction. I'd expected it, but on the other hand, I was starting to feel angry. She wasn't really even taking my feelings into consideration. I would forgive her though, because she was my best friend. And I wasn't willing to lose her. I also had to keep in mind that I was the one who lied to her. Well, I hadn't lied, but I'd hidden information from her. I would be hurt too in her position. I just had to have faith that our friendship was strong enough to survive this conflict. The more I thought about Alice and her family, the more I started letting myself imagine what my life could actually be like someday. Once everyone made up and realized we were all on the same team, I might even end up married to Edward. I could be this happy with him always. What was more, the silly fantasy I'd had about being a part of Alice's family could come true. I could be a Cullen. The irony of it was almost too much to wrap my mind around. There would be presents for me under the tree at Christmas. And I could walk into Esme's house without knocking. I could go to Carlisle for advice, and I would have sisters to shop with. There would always be people around that belonged to me, and I would belong to them. It was what I'd always wanted. Hey, I got you something. Edward saw it and stood up, dropping my head onto the couch. He came back with something wrapped in brown paper. Odd, maybe it was a book of his poetry or songs or something, but when I unwrapped it, I saw our faces smiling back at me. It's the picture Esme took. I ran my fingers over the wooden frame lovingly. I had her email it to me and got it printed and framed here, Edward explained. You were such a jerk that night, I laughed. You were driving me crazy. I'd already decided you weren't what I'd imagined you to be. But then you were still so beautiful and funny. I couldn't keep my eyes off of you, and I was sure Jacob was going to say something about it. When my mom took this picture, I desperately wanted to smell your hair. I thought I was losing my mind. I know the feeling. I kept looking at the picture and thinking about how good we really did look together. We looked like we were in love even then. I guess in a weird way we were. So do you like your present? I thought about getting you a necklace or something fancier, but I decided you might like this better. It's so perfect. I leaned my back against his chest on the couch. You promise you'll still love me after you leave, and this hasn't just all been in my imagination. One of my grandmas went crazy and thought the CIA was watching her through her TV screen. That stuff's genetic, you know. This could very well just be a very long delusion. You should probably drive me to the loony bin. You want someone you think you're imagining to drive you somewhere. I don't see how that works. I see your point, I sighed. I just hope it's always like this. Silly Bella. It's not too good to be true. How can I convince you of that? Just keep reminding me, I said seriously. I didn't like that I needed constant reassurance, but thankfully Edward seemed to be willing to give it. Check this out. Edward said. He pulled his wallet out of his back pocket, opened it, and pulled out a smaller copy of our picture. I'll always have it with me. I think I fell in love all over again when I saw it, and then it reminded me of something. Hey, did you really have my picture in your front pocket? You know, from that one blog entry. No, Edward chuckled. Can you imagine if my mom was doing the laundry and found that? I do have several old pictures of you that I swiped from files on Alice's computer. Well, I like this file better. Anyway, I said and playfully swatted at his butt. We'd better get ready for dinner. You are welcome to go through all my files when we get home. How did we manage to just turn the word files into something dirty? I laughed. You've got a dirty mind, Bella. Edward stood and helped me up from the couch, giving my file a squeeze too. We decided to go to Caroline's again, and the walk there this time was much more comfortable than the first time we went. We didn't talk the whole way there. We didn't need to. I just wanted to hold on to him for as long as I could. We arrived and were seated at a table near the back. Edward reached his hand across the table, and I took it. We just stared into each other's eyes as he rubbed circles on my hand with his thumb. That's when I heard it. That laugh. That cackle. I slowly turned my head toward the door and saw her. It was Charlotte Hyde. I whispered and sunk down in the booth. What? Why? Edward asked, confused, and turned his body around to look. Stop. Don't look. Get down, I said, and lay down in the booth. Bella, what are you doing? Would you please sit up? Edward leaned forward to look at me. It's Charlotte. She'll just say something to make me feel ugly or stupid and ruin our night. Now duck so she won't see us. Bella, that's silly. No one can make you feel ugly, Edward argued. Bella, are you feeling okay? Why are you lying down? I heard Charlotte's voice coming from the end of the booth. No. Not only was Charlotte here, but she caught me hiding from her. Oh, I was just looking for my napkin. I dropped it. I lied. Hi, Charlotte. Hi, Peter. You guys remember Edward? I said after I sat up. Peter said hello and excused himself to go to the bar to order a drink while they waited for a table. Oh, of course I remember Edward, Charlotte cooed. You're still here. I thought for sure you would have left by now. I'm leaving tomorrow actually, Edward said politely. Really? That's a shame. Well, I guess all good things must come to an end. It's not like we're not breaking up, I said defensively. Of course not, dear. Charlotte patted my shoulder and gave me a patronizing frown. I glanced at Edward with a look that said, see, and I could see the muscles in his jaw tense. I was wondering something about the two of you actually. Do you think it will hurt your music career, Edward? I mean, Bella is obviously several years older than you, and if you become famous, well, people will talk. There will be certain expectations even, like for you to date another artist or model or something. I saw Edward's right hand squeeze his napkin on the table until his knuckles turned white. Oh no, what if he just realized she was right? Charlotte, I'm trying to enjoy the last few hours I have in Boston with the woman I love. We really don't need you coming over here and insulting us and interrupting our time together, so I would appreciate it if you would leave us alone and go join Peter. He obviously sees something in you, but for the life of me I can't figure out what it is, Edward snapped at her. I. Charlotte's mouth opened and shut a few more times. You. She screamed, spun quickly around, and stomped off toward the bar. I saw her yelling at Peter, and he actually had the nerve to laugh at her. At that, she stormed out of the restaurant. Peter Why finished his drink before following after. What in the world just happened? God. I'm so sorry, Bella. I just couldn't stand to let her talk to you like that. You were right. She's evil. I finished his sentence for him. Please don't apologize. That was so hot. I took a long drink of my water trying to rein myself in. I desperately wanted to jump across the table and maul him. You thought that was hot? Edward asked in confusion. Oh yeah, I breathed. No one had ever stood up for me like that before. Damn, I should have punched her too. I don't like to hit women, but I would have done it if I'd known this was how you'd react. We ordered our dinner, but all I could think about was what I wanted to do after dinner. I'd never eaten so fast in my entire life. Bella, Edward groaned after the waitress cleared our plates. And we were waiting for the check. I gave him a confused look. You've got to stop looking at me like that. I can't take much more. I don't know how I'm even going to make it home. I feel like I'm going to combust over here. Here, use this to fan yourself. It helps. I handed him the dessert menu. Edward chuckled and shook his head, but I noticed he waved the menu in front of his face a few times. After Edward paid, he grabbed my hand and practically dragged me up the hill back to my house. His gait was wider than mine, and I was having trouble keeping up. I was AFR. If I asked him to slow down, he would just fling me over his shoulder and carry me home. On second thought, that might not be too bad. When we finally reached my porch, he snatched my keys out of my hand and unlocked the door. Then he grabbed my hand again, swung me inside, and shoved me up against wall as he kissed my neck and reached behind me to unzip my dress. It wasn't long before all our clothes were discarded. Every other night, we'd made love and enjoyed each other, but tonight we devoured each other. It was like we knew these touches would have to last for weeks, and we wanted to make sure it was memorable. And oh, was it memorable? Edward and I were tangled up in a sea of pillows and blankets on my bedroom floor. Somehow we'd managed to fall off the bed, but instead of letting it faze us, we just kept going. Now I lay with my head on his chest as he stroked my hair. I didn't really want to sleep on the floor, but I didn't want to move yet either. What are you thinking? He asked. I was thinking about a song. What song? One of mine. No, the one from Armageddon. I started singing. Don't wanna close my eyes. Don't wanna fall asleep, 'cause I miss you, girl, and I don't wanna miss a thing, 'cause even when I dream of you. Bella, please, Edward interrupted, and I could feel his body shaking with laughter beneath me. What? I asked innocently, like I hadn't been trying to be funny. I think you should let me sing the love songs, he smirked. Hey, I protested. No, really, I don't think Aerosmith is your style. He was really laughing now, and I was doing my best to keep acting offended. Oh, so what is my style, then? I don't know. Try Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. He laughed even harder. It's not funny, I said, but started to giggle. I'm sorry. I'll stop. He held up a hand in surrender. I'm going to miss you so much. He hugged my body tighter. I'm going to miss you too, I said, and held on as tight as I could until I had to let go while he sang the love song in my ear. And that wraps up episode 2. Thanks for listening, and get ready, episode 3 is on the way. Until then, take care and bye.